And a great good evening to all of you joining us this Sunday, September the 7th on the Marcy Week Show. I am Reverend Dr. Ferdinand Nichols, and it's a pleasure for me to be your host tonight, unexpectedly, but nevertheless having the opportunity to be with you again this evening. And it's certainly my pleasure and an honor for me to be able to fill the role that normally Marcia would be doing this evening. But uh, for circumstances beyond her control. Let me put it that way. She's unable to make this evening. She has had a couple of other engagements today, and so she's asked me to handle the show tonight. So it's a real joy for me to have all of you joining us. And of course, we're going to wait until we get up to the 200 mark. And let me just say what a pleasure it was for me to meet with so many of you during the march, and we're going to be showing some clips of that march in just a few minutes. But to have so many of you come up and introduce yourselves and, to relate to the names that we call here on the show. And I believe it was the first time I actually got to meet Marcia. So Marcia, good night. It was such a pleasure to meet you. And of course, all the others, including those who are always with us. We got to meet them again on Saturday for that march, and we had a great march. And like I said, you're going to be seeing some clips regarding that march in a few minutes. So let me welcome all of you that are joining us tonight. When we're over the 200 mark. Wow, we shot up there really quickly. Please remember to like and share, especially on YouTube, so that the algorithms will pick this show up more regularly or more easier, and have its prominence a little more in terms of YouTube. So remember to like and share, and on Facebook as well. Like, share, follow, whatever you do there on Facebook. Please make sure that you share this channel. This is a channel of what we call education. Let me make sure I get it. Motivation, education, motivation. I forgot the second M, and agitation. I think it's motivation and something else, but I'll get it, or somebody will get it for me. I'm sure of that before the night is out. So we're going to start right off, as we always do, with our national anthem, and then of course we're going to follow that up with our national pledge, and then we're going to get this program kicked off. The loyal opposition is in the house. So I'm going to ask Dave to get that national anthem up and running. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be proud participants in the national anthem. I invite you to stand with me wherever you are, and let us respect our national anthem as it's played this evening. Go right ahead, Dave.
Right.
strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith. This is our country, Barbados. And so we repeat together tonight our national pledge. We pledge to our country. And here we go. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living, to do credit to my nation wherever I go. That is the national pledge that we make as citizens of this country. I want to repeat, as I have often said in this show, we do not pledge our allegiance to a political party. If you do, you have failed in acknowledging the critical importance of your citizenship in this country. Your citizenship goes beyond any political party, and your commitment and your dedication must primarily be to your country and to your national flag. This is our sovereignty, and we must do all in our power to protect that sovereignty from all enemies, national, local, from within or without. And so we pledge our allegiance to our country, Barbados, and to our flag to uphold and defend their honor. I have not been called upon to defend the honor of the Democratic Labour Party, the APP, the UPP, the BLP, or any political party in this country. The pledge I have lived up to, grown up with, and been repeating for all of my life is a pledge to my country, Barbados, and to my flag. And would to God we would get back to that, so that rather than playing politics, rather than trying to satisfy our personal egos and arrogance, that we would put our country first and our national flag ahead of everything that we even personally desire. That is why it is important for our officials, when they are representing our country in any part of the world, to wear their national flag. And any official of government of any country that does not wear their national flag is simply saying that I do not represent the country from which I come. And I'm not even going to expand on that at the moment, although I'm tempted to. So I welcome you to this Marcy Week show tonight. I want to welcome all of you joining us from around the world, wherever this broadcast finds you, live or in the future as you watch it at some point. Let me welcome Judy, Dotton Jills. All of you, so many of you were present with us on Saturday, and we are so thankful to you for being there. Monica, Taroni Hall. Taroni, thank you for being there. And not only that, sharing in the after March experience. Flojo, good to see you there again. I missed you the other night. Bajan Boy, Lucinda, Aline, great to have you. Marcy Miller, it's a pleasure to have you back with us again. Mildred Ben, good evening to you as well. Jefferson Sobers, a joy to have you with us. Sylvan Rock. And of course, Marcia, great to have you with me again this evening. And it was a pleasure to get to meet you on Saturday. Mystic Angel, a pleasure to have you again as well. Dion, I think it's Diana, sorry. Diana Husbands, is it? Diana Husbands. Good to have you with us. Laurie Bob, a pleasure as well to have you again tonight. Diana, that we call Diana already. Hustler. Hustler, good to have you with us again tonight. Hustler Tony Paris and Joyanne, I'm looking for a name, and I haven't seen it yet. Mavis Lashley, and yes, great to have you too, Matthew and Patricia, Tony. Pleasure to have you too, ADG. There you are, and let me see, Bonnie. Great to have you too, Bonnie Mavis, and Adrian Gibbs. Good night to you as well, Lucinda. Good to have you, Cami, Shirley. I'm looking for somebody. Haven't seen him yet. Marilyn, Sir Alfred Benjamin. There you are, sir. Good evening. A real joy to have you with us tonight, Sir Alfred. Pleasure to have you all back with us, and invite you to please share, like, so that we can push the numbers up that are viewing this show on YouTube and on Facebook. Well, let me begin this evening not only by welcoming all the members of the loyal opposition and any others, even the members of government and the supporters of government who are joining us out of curiosity or out of suspicion or maybe even out of anger. That's okay. You're going to hear the truth here. And if the truth gets you angry, all we will say to you is to pay attention to the truth and don't allow the honesty of your life to be polluted by the fiction, by the fiction of those whom you swear loyalty to more than your country and your flag. So permit me this evening to welcome all of you. And as we get into the show tonight, I want to first of all thank all of you who have continued to contribute to the well-being of my wife. I am deeply appreciative of everything, every donation that you give. And I want to thank you. Several of you came up to me on Saturday and placed a donation in my hands and said to me, "This is for your wife." I can assure you, I have given it to her. I have not spent it on rotis or drinks or snacks or anything of the sort. She has received every single cent, every penny that you have given to me to give to her with regards to her health and the travel and so on that she has to do, and hopefully we will be able to do so in the not too distant future. She does have a couple of critical appointments here on the island before we engage going overseas, but we're still in the process of raising significant funds. We've not got halfway there yet, so we're still in tremendous need to get to the inevitable figure that our GoFundMe page would have. And I'm sure at some point Dave and them will put it up here. And I also want to thank Dave and Marcy for their support in that they have actually had us here on the show, had the GoFundMe page up here on the show for you to see. So let me start by saying thank you, first of all, on behalf of my wife, for your donations to assist with her health. I now also want to make a comment regarding a spiritual matter. Now, you know, I'm a pastor, you know, I'm an ordained minister, and I don't often get into the depths of spiritual things here on the show because we are respectful of the variety of faiths that we have here. But there's some things I need to share with you. You know, over the last week, we had a system that was brewing in the Atlantic, a tropical depression, Invest 91L. And I observed that when it started in the area of the Canary Islands. I think Azores or Canary Islands, and it was destined to travel along the northern aspect of the upper aspect of the Atlantic Ocean, and take a curve depending on the high pressure area. Take a curve that would take it just off to the north. Let me get this right: northeast of the Leeward Islands. And then suddenly I observed that the system dropped dramatically directly in line with Barbados, and it was destined to become a Category 2 hurricane before it got to us. As I was pondering this, I believe the Lord spoke to me and said to me, "Rev, there's a connection between Ghana and the burial site that has now been opened at Newton. There is a spiritual connection, a demonic one, that this hurricane is traveling along the middle passage, the same passage, and you'll notice if you check it, that it is all along, as you come across Africa, that middle passage that was the slave passage, that's the same route that most hurricanes take. And some years ago, the Lord shared with me that passage was reflective of the curses that African slaves gave to the people as they brought them across the Atlantic into a land that they knew nothing of. And he showed to me in this instance that there were demonic spirits concealed in this system to determine destruction and damage to our country. I alerted some of my brethren. I sent out an alert to several of my colleagues and called for intercessory prayer. And I'm thankful to inform you tonight that it worked. prayer works. That system has now been downgraded back down to a tropical depression, wave, a tropical wave. That's what it's been directed back down to. Prayer works. I want to tell you that this evening. And not only that, I want you to hear this. Not only that, but it has actually shifted back up north and is now destined to make, the majority of it is now destined to make that same original curve that would have taken it northwest of the Leeward Islands and going on up in the area of Bermuda. This is what we do. This is what we as Christians do. We protect our country. And I want to say that it's important what you speak. The Bible tells me that death and life are in the power of the tongue, and you will eat the fruit of it. It also says a man's belly is satisfied by the fruit of his lips. And I want to say to you, if you want change in this country, if you want to see that sense of hopelessness lifted in this country, you need to speak it into the nation. You need to open your mouth and declare it into the country. If we all did that, there would be a significant shift in the atmosphere over this nation, and we will see things dramatically change in Barbados. As a matter of fact, I am saying to you, because we have spoken exposure in this nation, things are beginning to unravel before your very eyes. Look at what is happening with regards to recent resignations. And I'm going to come to that in just a moment. In just a minute, I'm going to come to that. Because it's important what you speak. It's important what you say. And if we want to have a rescue of this country, we, the citizens, not just the members of the loyal opposition, we, the citizens, must release it into the atmosphere of this nation so that we can turn the tide from where we are heading and get back to where the Lord is the people's guide, and he will continue to be the people's guide and lead us on to our success. Now, let me for a few moments speak to the matter of this recent resignation of the Minister of Housing. I think that we have addressed, from this standpoint, we have addressed a number of things with regards to this matter. But I found it rather interesting, some comments that were made that I read in the Barbados Today, and I want to pick up on them. First of all, I want to pick up on a comment made by political analyst Peter Wickham in an article in the Barbados Today entitled "Missed Chance: Sutherland's Silence Over Resignation Leaves Room for Rumor," says Wickham. Mr. Wickham proceeded to issue a warning that the lack of a clear statement allows rumors and social media chatter to fill the void. He went on to say that although the resignation was officially attributed to personal reasons, the minister offered no further explanation, and that silence, Wickham suggested, has created room for rumors to take hold. Now, I want you to listen to the next paragraph that I'm going to read very, very carefully. He went on to say, and I quote, "We heard of a resignation for personal reasons," he told Barbados Today. "But I think the former minister missed an opportunity to tell his own story, because already in Barbados, on social media and various other sources, listen carefully, the true picture is coming out. Mr. Wickham must know something the rest of us don't. The true picture," he says, "is coming out." Now remember, he said the lack of the minister's comments or the lack of the minister's explanation, listen carefully, left the matter open to rumor and social media chatter to fill the void. Yet he went on to say that as a result of his failure to speak, that the story in social media and other various sources, the true picture is coming out. Get that word. I am going to just leave that there. Now let me turn my attention to some comments made by the incoming Minister of Housing. And I wish him well. I wish him well for the sake of the people of our country. I hope and I pray that Mr. Christopher Gibbs will do a sterling job on the behalf of the people of Barbados, who elected him to serve in Parliament to represent them and not the global elitists, as we are seeing the leader of our country do. We did not elect the Prime Minister to represent the World Economic Forum. We did not elect the Prime Minister to represent climate change, pundits, elitists, and globalists, and misinformation and conspiracists. We did not elect her to represent the World Health Organization or any other entity on this planet. She was elected to office to represent Barbados. And what the world is discovering is that while she tries to paint a beautiful picture of Barbados, and let me say, that it is not our intention to pull down Barbados. We will never pull down Barbados. We have pledged allegiance to our country and to our flag. But regrettably, Barbados is not synonymous with the Barbados Labour Party government. The two are poles apart. Barbados is not synonymous with the Prime Minister. The two are poles apart. Let us be clear on this matter. And while Mr. Hilary Beckles would want us to believe that she is admired by the people of the Caribbean, maybe he should take a trip and ask the people in Guyana what they think of our Prime Minister. He should ask the people in St. Vincent, not the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, not the President of Guyana. Ask the people of Dominica what do they think of the Prime Minister of Barbados. And sir, I think you might be in for a shocking surprise. Nevertheless, let me get back to Mr. Gibbs. He took his oath of office, and listen, I don't know this. The article is written by Shanna Moore, and I am assuming that she was present at his swearing ceremony, and that the comments refer or reflect what was said. The article said that Mr. Gibbs has vowed to rebuild public confidence in the ministry. Stick a pin. It means that public confidence has been lost. It means that the previous minister has not done a sterling job. It means that the previous minister needs to give an account to the people of Barbados for his stewardship while he was Minister of Housing. He needs to give an account for the $60 million debacle at Hope. He cannot walk away from this matter with clean hands and call it a resignation, or for that matter, a dismissal. He has to give an account. And if he doesn't give an account now, he is going to give an account in the not too distant future. Mr. Gibbs went on to say that he is distancing himself. Listen to the words. I'm not saying he said this. Let me correct myself. It is reported that he said he is distancing himself from past stumbles. I don't know what stumbles he's talking about. To me, it was absolute fall flat on your face. And promising greater transparency, communication, and efficiency in housing delivery. Tell me, when do you recall having heard that before? When did you recall having heard about the matter of transparency and accountability and communication before? As I recall, there were several of the planks that this government ran on in 2018 and 2022. Nevertheless, since then, we have had neither transparency or accountability or communication. We have none of that. Okay? And so it is so important. It is important. It is so important that we deal with these matters and address them. Gibbs' appointment follows a turbulent chapter marked by listen, this is the report, marked by project delays, public frustration, and the abrupt resignation of his predecessor, Dwight Sutherland, who left the cabinet on Wednesday, citing personal reasons. Another expression of being fired because you're creating a problem in terms of the government. Mr. Gibbs replaces the outgoing minister and is the third minister to leave the Mottley-led cabinet in under a year, following the departures of Corey Lane and Marcia Cattle. And may I add, also following the departure of Dr. Crystal Haynes. The firing, she was fired, don't let's call it by any other name, just because that wonderful young lady, she's a beautiful young lady, just because she stood up and said, what is happening where Holton is concerned is not right. I'm just paraphrasing it. It's not right. The people have to be considered. Things need to be preserved, etc., and so on. She expressed herself. And because she did, she was fired. And she was fired because when you are operating in these realms of politics, you are bullied into a position. And if you don't toe the line, you're ostracized and you are separated from the grouping that is going where things are concerned. So this is a matter of concern for all Barbadian citizens. Okay, so let's one of the things that I don't like, and I don't have a lot of fancy cliches. I don't have a lot of fancy picture words and whatnot. I talk straight. Look at her there on the screen. Lovely young lady. And we stand with her. We stand with her because she spoke. And I understand that there was somebody else who said something about when your morals collide with policy or something like that. I can't remember who it was that made the comment. But imagine if you are in a cabinet and you have to make a statement like that. What is happening in the cabinet? What is happening in the cabinet? That the decisions within the cabinet do not align with basic fundamental morals. This, when we talk about morals, people think we're talking about sexuality. No, we're talking about what is right and what is wrong. And therein lies the problem with most politicians. They cannot divide what is right or what is wrong. They can only divide what is Barbados Labour Party or Democratic Labour Party or APP or any of the other names you want to name. You have got to come to the place where you divide on the basis of what is right and what is wrong. That's what my mother taught me. She used to tell me, don't follow the crowd. Do the right thing. And I have learned to do the right thing. So I wanted to make those couple of comments as I'm awaiting the arrival of one of my guests for tonight. They've just messaged me and told me that they're still on the road. So I'm going to, in a few minutes, take us into a few of the clips coming up from our march on Saturday. And we're going to be having another march. We're going to miss this Saturday. And the following Saturday, I don't know at the moment. Let me see what date that is very quickly. We're going to miss this coming Saturday, which would be the 13th. So the next march is going to be on the 20th of this month. And so keep your ears to the ground, keep your eyes open so that you can find out and know when the next march is going to be. All right. And one final thing that I'd like to touch on, and it has to do with this matter of Venezuela and the United States. Now, I want to be clear on this. All right. I know this matter of America and the president and all of that is a very volatile subject. I get it. You either hate the president of the United States or you like him. Bottom line. You either hate his policies or you don't, or you like his policies. Bottom line. I'm not going to get into that. But this, there was a comment I made on my Facebook page, and the comment was this, in a nutshell. I indicated in terms of the caption, the area that I was reflecting on, that this area has been a zone of peace unlike any other region in the world. And before any country comes into our area, our region, into our sovereign territorial waters with any kind of flotilla, conversations need to be had with the leaders of the countries in this hemisphere. It is disrespectful of any government on the planet, be it Russia, China, India, America, Canada, I don't care who. Just as we were critical of Maduro, who was trying to take over a portion of Guyana in the Essequibo, we should be prepared to take a stand as a region and say to the United States and to the president, if you want to pursue persons in our area and in our territory, have discussions with us as the leaders of this region. I recall, I think it was President Bush, I think it was, and I stand to be corrected, when they wanted to have this ship riders agreement established in the Caribbean that would give them a right to come into our territorial waters whenever they felt like, in pursuit of drug lords and drug vessels and all this kind of stuff. I remember our then Prime Minister, Mr. Owen Arthur, taking a stand and making it abundantly clear, can't happen here in Barbados. If you want to come into Barbados sovereign territorial waters in pursuit of anybody or anything, you will dialogue, you will liaise with the government of this sovereign nation into whose waters you want to come. And that is precisely, thank you, Vida Clinton, I hope it was. That is precisely the stand that we must take now. I think it was, again, also Trinidad, who didn't have a problem with it. They went along with it. But our Prime Minister at the time, Mr. Arthur, said, not in here. I take the same position on the basis that we are a sovereign country. This is a region of sovereign nations. There's not a lot of water in this area that is not a part of some country or some island, that we demand the respect of everybody, no matter how big a McGuffey you might be and how small a place we might be. We demand the respect of any country and any entity, including the World Health Organization, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund. You cannot come into our country and tell us what to do because you think you are holding the cards because you have money. I want you to understand that there are other sources for economic assistance and health and well-being for our countries other than the World Bank and the IMF. And you're going to see some of them occurring and appearing. I remember having a conversation. I remember having a conversation with a former director of the Caribbean Development Bank on the matter of how we could address the economic woes of the Caribbean. And I am no economist. I am no financial guru, nothing of the sort. But my mother taught me something that is rare today: common sense. Common sense. And I turned to the director and I said to him, what about the contribution of philanthropic organizations? What about those entities, those individuals, those groups that would grant our countries grants, no pun intended, grants to our countries without, well, of course, a grant doesn't have to be repaid, but unlike what some people think, a grant carries conditions. There are certain things you must fulfill if you're going to get a grant. And his response surprised me. He turned to me. He was one of the directors in the realm of finance at the Caribbean Development Bank. Now, mind you, at the time I was selling BMWs, I'm preaching the gospel. Okay, I do not have a degree in economics. I do not sit in the CDB. I do not have a degree in accounts or anything of the sort. He turned to me and he said, "You are so right. The solution to the woes of the Caribbean economies is philanthropic assistance." And I have always wondered why we have never pursued this. And then I discovered why. In 2018, many people are asking me, how did you get the designation? Share with you now. In 2018, I was appointed International Governor and Peace Ambassador to Barbados for an organization called the Academy of Universal Global Peace USA. What that did was it opened up an opportunity for me to be able, through the organization, to engage philanthropic donors. the fundamental aspect of the organization was peace across the world and economic development through education, where people would be more educated, they would be able to enhance their income, and as a result, be free from poverty alleviation through education. And I discovered that there were philanthropic donors willing to give funding to the Barbados government. On more than one occasion, I accessed funding for the government of Barbados. I'm not saying this government, but this current government was involved in one instance. I accessed it and I presented it, and it was declined. On each occasion, it was declined. I was puzzled. And then one day I ran into an attorney at law whose name I will not call and the location I will not say, because you may know them by virtue of the location who I'm speaking about. I ran into this attorney at law, very active politically. He knew very much in the realm of politics and so on. And I shared it with him. And he looked at me and he said, "And what did you offer the minister?" And I asked him, I said, "But what are you talking about?" He said, "What did you offer the minister? Did you offer the minister anything?" I said, "No, I didn't." He said, "Well, that's why your offer has not been accepted." We talk about corruption in this country. And I am saying to you tonight, there is an exorbitant level of corruption in this country, where we are seeing multi-million dollars of funding coming into this country from all kinds of sources. I want to ask the question, who is profiting from being able to access this funding? Because anybody who is stupid enough to believe that governments in the Caribbean are getting funding without some contribution being given to politicians is a blind individual. The Caribbean is noted to be one of the highest areas or realms in the world for corruption. And when I checked, Barbados was somewhere around 23 or 28 in terms of the corruption index out of 190 something countries. Now we did get a reasonably high level of consideration in terms of the gifts and giving in this area. But let me tell you, somebody somewhere is profiting when it comes to the matters of finance in this country. We are $7-point-something billion in debt. When this government leaves office and all these people are living high on the hog across wherever they are, I don't know if they're going to still be in the island or not, we are going to be sucking salt in this nation. Your children, your grandchildren, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are going to have to clean up this stinking financial economic mess that we are leaving them. I don't know if, as a result of the visit to Algiers, if we're going to hear something coming there now. I don't know. I'm asking the question. I don't know. I don't know if you're going to hear, but it just seems to me that money is appearing, and I don't understand how money can be appearing in this country. We can budget $4 million in our expenditure for the Carifesta event, and I have no problems with that. I believe they've gone over budget, but they need to present the people of Barbados who employs them to serve the people an account of how the money was spent, what was spent, how much it costs. It has to be presented to the people of this country. That is not an option. You are being employed by the people of this country. You are a servant. You are not the manager. You're not the boss. You're not the king. You're not the queen. You're the servant of the people. That's the oath you took to serve the people of this country. You can find 50 million US dollars, I believe it was, loan to spruce up Kensington, and we can't see the money yet. We didn't see the fields, we didn't see the cricket, nothing. coming out for this money. But today, people sucking salt to buy school products, school books, uniforms, shoes, and even get money to get their children to school, while you threaten them with a legislative position that if they don't change the tint on their car, you are going to fine them $10,000 or 1 year in jail or both. You are out to make criminals of innocent people who want to keep inside their cars cool. That's all, you know. That is all they want to do. We're going to do that toward the end, Dave. All they want to do is to see their children get into school. And we're going to touch this clip that you see Dave has here on the screen. We're going to play this toward the end of the program tonight at your call-in time, because we want you to hear what this gentleman has to say. And we want you to call in and tell us what you think. So we're going to be playing this clip toward the end of the show tonight, where you can call and you can present what you feel, how you feel with regards to this matter. You can find all this money to put up brand new red tents up in Oistins, all kinds of things you can do around the island, but you can't find the ability to reduce the VAT back to 15% when you vehemently opposed it when it was carried up to 17.5% and supposedly was temporary. The then administration made it permanent. You opposed it, came to office, and you have done absolutely nothing to reduce it. People look at me and say, well, look at the basket of goods that they have increased. They have increased a basket of goods of what they think Barbadians should continue to eat: sardines and biscuits and corned beef and salt fish. But we have moved from the 20th century. We have moved from the 19th century. We are in the 21st century. And you want to tell me you have the audacity to look at Bajans and tell them, well, the basket of goods, you know, the corned beef, and what about the salmon, and what about all the vegetables and all of those things? What about all of that? Okay, so don't come to me with this nonsense as to how we are better off. Barbadians are sucking salt. People are having to decide if they're going to send one child to school or two children to school if they can afford it. Cost of uniforms has gone through the roof. Shoes have gone through the roof. Socks have gone through the roof. This is basic, fundamental. How about taking the VAT off of all school supplies? How about that? Or I had to tell you, it wouldn't surprise me one iota if when this show finished tonight, another couple of days, you hear the government come up and say how they're going to remove the VAT from school supplies. I wouldn't be surprised, because it seems that as soon as this show finished addressing a matter, the government pulls back or amends or something of the sort. How about that? How about removing the VAT off of everything to do with school? How about helping parents and children with not school fees, but the cost to get to school? I don't know if they still travel free. Somebody tell me if they're still traveling free on school buses. I mean on the buses. And fundamentally, they should be able to travel free on on every bus. I don't care whether it's a school bus or not. If the senior citizens can travel free on public transport, children should be able to too. We are paying enough at the pump. I understand, and I stand to be corrected, but one night here on this show, Kimar revealed to us that the government was collecting around $80 million a month from the tax at the gas pumps. Of course, I think can't remember his name right now, but you all will tell me who he is. But that gentleman that was a financial advisor to the government denied that it was as much as that. But I tend to trust Kimar's assessment more than his, because I've learned that governments fundamentally, and I know the statement I'm about to make could leave a cast aspirations on the governments to come, but government is fundamentally known to lie to the people. We went through a pandemic with the governments across the world lying to the people, telling them that if you wear a mask, you would be okay. And people wearing masks and still contracting COVID, telling us that if we got the shot, you would be okay. And people got the shot and the boosters and still caught COVID. Ignoring the advice of brilliant doctor professionals and medical professionals and virologists across the world, because the World Health Organization is in bed with the pharmaceutical industry and the governments. And people died. I remember having a conversation, myself and my wife, with a young lady who was responsible for working on these shipping companies here in Barbados. And she tearfully shared with us how her boyfriend at the time, they came out, had a couple of kids, and they came out, we were coming out of the house to go to Chafet. Thank you, Joya and Clyde Maskell, thank you. Coming out to go to Chafet to get something to eat. And he picked up the keys off his stand and dropped dead. And I asked her, I said, was he treated for the virus? And she said, yes. He took it because in order to go up the line in terms of management, he had to take it. You know what? He ain't gone up the line in management. He's gone up the line to glory or wherever. I don't know. He's gone. And that's what governments were complicit with across the world. And we're seeing it all coming out now. If you watch the congressional and Senate hearings, you will see it all coming out. And we said it. We told the people. But no, our Prime Minister sat in an interview with Amanpour and made the same statement she made sitting on the platform here in the Carifesta village, Carifesta event, big talk or something, and talked about how she expressed to the leaders of the Caribbean that we have to take control of the information people can put out and all of that. Wanting to violate the freedom of speech and privacy of the people of every country in this region. That is what they want to do. But I'm here to tell you, as long as we have breath in our body, we are going to fight. And we are going to tell the truth. And I remember a great teacher, probably the greatest teacher who ever lived, made this statement. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Well, believe it or not, those are my opening comments. And I was holding to see if my guests would have made it in. I hope they're going to do so shortly. But I'm going to ask Dave now to play a few clips for us coming out of our march on Saturday so that you can see. We had a great march on Saturday. We had a massive truck, 3, 4, 5 times the size of the truck we normally have. And it was significantly donated. It wasn't given free. We still had to pay a portion of it. But thank God, nowhere, it was the same thing we would have had to pay, I believe, for the smaller vehicle. But this was a massive truck with big sound system and everything. God was good to us, and the crowd was good. We had a good turnout, and we are going to invite all of you to join us for the next march. This country needs to have a national march so that the government understands we ain't joking and we ain't making no sport. Dave, play those clips, my brother.
To be good at math, smart English. I just pretending to care about people. I'm pretending to be good at math, smart English. I just pretending to care about people. Good at math, smart English. English, 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 English. Pretending to be good. I pretend.
Well, you got a little bit of the taste, a little bit of the action that happened on Saturday during our march. And I tell you, we had a great march. We were so delighted. So many people turned out, and we were happy to have so many come out to that march. I was so blessed. And I always do my duty as one of the traffic directors. I communicate between the police and the truck driver to make sure that we follow the regulations that they require. We have always worked very well with the police. It's always been a tremendous synergy between ourselves and the police. And my role generally I took that on. Nobody told me I had to do it. I just took the role on to make sure that people stayed within the lines of the truck to be safe, those kind of things. And we had a great march. Well, We have a couple of my guests in at the moment, but I'm going to have to go to one of them who is a fiery gentleman, a very fiery gentleman, and a gentleman who is no stranger to the Marcy Week show. So I'm going to even bring him in before he is actually scheduled to be in. And Victor, I'm always taking away 2 minutes from your time, or 3 minutes
Yes,
from
sir.
your time, or five
Mm-hmm.
minutes from your time. So if I
All
give you
right.
back 3 minutes,
Yeah, man.
good
Talk it
evening,
talk,
sir,
man.
and
Good
welcome
evening,
to
my
the
brother.
show. Good evening.
Uh-huh.
Good evening. How are you doing?
Yes. I'm super fine, you know. Good
I
evening
love
to
that.
all
Super
your
fine.
opposition, man. Super fine, man. Yeah, super fine. I just came across the East Coast, you know.
Uh huh.
Yeah, I was down in the plain area, you know, of a Shori village.
Uh huh.
You know, so I came up the coast there, man, and you should see that moon, you know, beautiful, man, oh, lovely.
Well,
You
you
know,
you have me in
I,
here. You have me in here.
yeah,
You
yeah,
got me
but
in here,
even
so I can't see the
right,
moon.
but even if you go outside your house, you know, in St. George, you can't really enjoy the beauty because you saw there the moonlight glistening across the waters, you know,
But you
on
you
the
yeah,
east
but you
coast.
forget that you forget
Yes,
we
man.
have waters in St. George too. You know.
Water, you mean from where the pipe?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yes,
Welcome, my
man.
friend. It's so good to have you with us tonight.
Yeah.
So tell me, I mean,
Yeah,
we've
man.
we've had so much
Mhm,
happening, and I saw an article in the Barbados Today recently
mhm,
treating to St. Joseph, and I thought it would be good for us to hear from you, because you've been on the show talking so much and at
mhm,
length, and telling the truth concerning the issues in terms of transport, roads, and so on there in
mhm.
St. Joseph. So, Doc, just go right ahead and share with us this evening what is on your mind.
Yeah, before before Dave pulls any videos, you know exactly what that reporter said. You know, he spoke about coming from Bridgetown on a bus and traveling to Bashibo, you know, to enjoy the scenic view. And he wants to get a feel of what it was all about, you know.
Uh
And
huh.
I mean, everything he said, you know, in that report concerning, you know, the roads and the St. Joseph area. Um, You know, I came here and I spoke relative to the condition of the roads in St. Joseph, especially as it relates to McCulloch Bridge.
Hmm.
You know, um, but the gentleman expressed the same thing I said, that a bus driver said, that he has difficulty in taking the bus through that road because he is clearly aware that this will damage the bus. So he said to the residents in the area, you know, he's soon going to stop taking the buses through there. And that same road this reporter reported on, that road, McCulloch Bridge, you know.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, you know, the same road. And he said that there was a lady in the bus. When the bus dropped into a pothole, she just shouted with all her expletives. you know but that is
Yes.
real. So it is not only Mr. Lewis, but there are reporters going on over there. There are many residents, not only residents of St. Joseph, but people who visit St. Joseph, and they have to take that Bathsheba bus. I mean, fortunate for him, he was coming from Bridgetown. So he said practically he enjoyed the ride right up onto
Grantley Adams School, I
Grandy
think he said.
Adams.
Yes.
But then he's got to make that right turn, you know, to go then to McCulloch Bridge, and then to come on back out on the top of Horsell. And that road is bad, extremely bad. You know what the representative for St. Joseph said? The folks in St. Joseph can wait. That's what we're waiting on. So I concur with that reporter 200%. Everything was spot on. He said when he get to the area then of Andromeda and started to go down, Beachmont into Bashiba, then the pothole started again. You know,
Yes, yes.
he spoke to the fact that there was some kind of reprieve, as the case may be, when he got to the top of parcel to see some construction work going on in that area. But as far as I'm concerned, the folks in St. Joseph, we happy for that. But at the end of the day, how can we as a people in St. Joseph sit down when all of our bridges are flat to the ground?
But
All of the bridges flat to the ground.
Victor, it's not just you,
Mhm,
all people in St. Joseph,
mhm,
This is an embarrassment to the country. I mean, when the reporter spoke, and I thought it was such a lovely comment when he started out. He started out by talking about how you take the bus along the rugged east coast to Bashifa, discovering a journey in which you are struck with stunning scenery,
mhm.
and the whole aspect of soaking up some of the country's most striking natural scenery and beauty.
Oh,
and
beautiful.
and when I hear these sentiments being expressed, and
Mhm,
I realize that it's not just the buses, the public transport buses, but it is the other vehicles that are taking people out on the scenic tours. Some of them are coaches. I think some of them are Land Rovers. They probably will all
mhm.
have to go for Land Rovers Defenders very soon,
Yeah.
because the roads don't suit anything now but a rugged off-road vehicle like a Land Rover
Mhm,
Defender. But I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed, Victor, because this is my country. And,
mhm,
people will leave here. And some of them could be on social media. Some of these people have massive followings on social media. And we don't know who they are. We don't know who they are when they come here. And they will leave, and they're not going to talk about the beautiful experience at Oyston's Fishing Village. They're
no,
going to talk about what you are talking about.
precisely. And whether you come from the direction of Grantley Adams, whether you use the Highway 6 up to Bashiba,
Hmm.
or whether you travel across the Ermy-Bourne Highway, you're
Hmm.
going to be subjected to the same thing.
Yes, sir.
When you
I
come to
Yeah.
Belplain, you may have a few relatively good paved roads,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Up until the point now when you get by the St. Andrew Parish Church, and you're
Yes.
coming through the main core area of Belplain, you got the
Yeah.
potholes again,
Yes,
But
sir.
we it took a visit by the Prime Minister of this country to the Allen School for the potholes in Belplain to be filled.
Oh my goodness.
Yes,
No,
it
no, no,
took
no, 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 no.
all the potholes on that main road in Belplain, starting from the Anglican Church straight over to the roundabout. All those potholes were filled just prior to the day before the Prime Minister paid a visit to Allen School. In actual fact, if you go in Allen Schoolyard, you will see all the bits of what do you call it again? Barber green, you know, just tossed down, and probably rolling with a truck. You know, all through Belplain. If you travel through Belplain now, you'll see it for yourself. All those potholes down there now, filled with Barber green, just for the visit of the Prime Minister to Allen School. And I'm
Wow.
saying that when we see something like that, the representative for Senanjo, he should be dismissed. Because the people of Belplain deserve good paved roads, not because the Prime Minister visiting Allen School. Well, of course, I hope she can visit Bashiba on a more frequent basis. I hope she can visit McCulloch Bridge on a more frequent basis.
Well,
I hope she can visit the Ridge Road. I hope she can visit Lower Parks and Upper Parks so that we will get some work done in those areas.
I don't mean to be facetious, but
Mhm.
I don't know that she's going to be able to visit because she's private jet setting all over the world. She's in Algiers tonight.
But you know,
At least she's in
hold it
Algiers
there,
yesterday.
hold it there. You know, the folks in Upper Park said that just now visits to that area has to be by helicopter. So if the mom has an helicopter or plane, well, we gotta
Private
come
jet.
her. So she will come in. She will. Well, of course, if she has a jet, she should be able to get a helicopter. You know, and visit us by helicopter. That will be wonderful. You know, because that is going to be the medium of transport in upper parks and lower parks just now. Go ahead, Dr. Ferdinand.
Yeah, Dave, you have that. You have that clip. Oh, Dave is telling me that she thinks she's now over in Ethiopia. So, anyhow, I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave that. Maybe because she's in those countries, and I don't mean any disrespect.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, I'm not even going to say that because when I see some of the videos to do with some of these African countries, their cities and whatnot are beautiful. They're not no pygmy huts and anything that like sometimes the West media tries to make
Mhm.
us think. There's some fantastic cities with tremendous high-rise buildings and great, beautiful roads and everything. So maybe she might get an inspiration in traveling to some of those African countries as to what needs to be done here in Barbados. But you go ahead, Dave, and run that video.
Hold it there. You see that? You see that sign there?
Franklin Dublin
Franklin
Road.
Dublin Road, right?
Uh-huh.
That is in
Mm-hmm.
St. Andrew. You know, and I spent, you know, about 28 years working in that area, and I'm very, very familiar with that plane. I could close my eyes and walk it. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
this particular road, I would have traveled, you know, many times. And that road was in disrepair for years, you know, Dr. Ferdinand. For years, this road was in disrepair. Go ahead, play the video there, Dave. You know, so this road was Barbara Green from top. It is a cul-de-sac. You know, hold the video, just stop the video right there.
Wait. What's that? That you had an earthquake down there?
Huh?
Did you have an earthquake in St. Andrew that we don't know about?
You can see the crack there to the right, Dr. Ferdinand.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that road was in disrepair for years. For the years, people calling for this road to be repaired. And recently, you know, the civil engineers employed by this government are responsible for this construction. This is a cul-de-sac that was milled, paved, rolled, Barbara Green. And the minute they finish, this happened. Play the video there, Dave. Continue the video. And hold me get to the right. I will turn a bit, you know. I'm walking up the stretch of this road here.
Is that a pothole that the part? Oh no, that's a shadow. Okay,
Yeah, that's a shadow. No, that right up there, that's a crack.
that's on
You
the
see with
left
the
hand side
shadow
there.
on the left hand side, that's a crack, that's the road drop.
Oh
So
goodness.
all that area there is drop, you know,
Oh wow.
all that area there underneath the truck drop. And I'm turning to the right? All that road. Stop the video right there now. Stop it right there. You see the Gabians
Yes,
there, see with
yes,
that pole?
yes, yes,
All the
yes.
Gabians. We have engineers, civil engineers. Now, you know, this is life. We will make mistakes. Appreciate it. But tell me something. At whose expense all these mistakes that are being made in this country, in the Scotland district? You made a mistake at Melvin's Hill. Bridge collapse. Lane's bridge collapse. You know, Down in Lamins, bottom, collapse. Joseph Bridge, here, opposite St. Elizabeth, collapse. Spar, collapse. Mellows, collapse. Now this road, after we spend thousands of dollars, and these folks in this cul-de-sac area waited years for the civil engineers in this country to take responsibility for this roads. They came in there, put down all the gabions, etc., put in their mar, roll, and everything, and the minute they left, this happened.
Good morning. I'm here with Miss Franklin.
Wow.
Tell me, tell me, tell me,
Wow.
tell me,
Wow.
tell me.
And you know the thing that I think
Hold it,
frustrates
hold it there, hold it there, hold it there, hold it there,
uh-huh.
Dr. Ferdinand. My concern is, right,
Mm-hmm.
if the same civil engineers that are responsible for that project are responsible for the bridges. That is my concern. Because if that is the competency that they're bringing to these projects, then God help us. Continue, Doctor.
No, I was saying, you know, one of the problems that we face in this country, you know, if I worked in a company, Victor,
Mm.
and I didn't deliver, I would get a warning. If I'm in a nice company, I think they would give me a warning, because some companies don't give you a warning at all. You walk in the next morning, you find out you're fired.
Mm-hmm.
But it is like you can do all this stuff or not do anything and receive promotion in this government, because we had lousy representation in the Ministry of Education, incompetent Minister of Education who got promoted. You have people who are not delivering. You have a minister who's going to walk away from a $60 million debacle, really, who are project concerned, without giving an account to the people of this country. It's like these people don't feel that they have to explain, give an account, or anything of the sort. They can do as they like and just get away with it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you don't hear. Look at what happened with our criminal crime situation in this country, and the attorney general is still in office. In any other country, he'd be fired. In any other
Precisely.
country, most of these
Mm-hmm.
ministers will be looking
Mm-hmm.
for jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But in
Incompetent.
Barbados, you get promoted.
Mm-hmm. You know, so that is a serious concern of mine, because if you have individuals who are in office and they take the responsibility to oversee the engineering dynamics of these areas of construction in the Scotland district, it tells me that these individuals then ought to be competent. Not that you would not make a mistake. Yes, I appreciate mistakes will be made, but look at what happened as a result of the mistakes that were made.
Who's
That
in minute?
now we having Shori buses, Chalky Monk buses, Spicestown buses, all traveling on the East Coast.
And I've
That is
traveled
the,
down the
that is
East
the
Coast
result of,
recently, and I can tell you
yeah,
the East Coast is an embarrassment.
total
It's an
embarrassment.
embarrassment. I mean, you know, if you're traveling, let me say from let me pick up from mile and a quarter if I can. If I'm
Mhm,
traveling from mile and a quarter past All Saints Church, okay, past the new burial ground down there where the former prime minister is buried. The road up there is fairly okay, pretty
mhm,
nice road. You turn off toward Farley Hill, a pretty nice road. You're coming down Farley Hill. I've seen some cracks beginning to develop on Farley Hill, but nothing that would disturb, to my knowledge, that
mhm,
would disturb a couple of little sinks, you know, because that area is a very difficult area to deal with. But no potholes or anything that I recall when I was traveling down that area. And as soon as I clear, and you're correct, and I can testify to the fact that you're telling the truth. From the time you pass St. Andrew's Parish Church, I start dodging.
mhm.
And I traveled along that area Belplain to turn onto the Ernieborn Highway. And the beginning portion of Ernieborn is not the best either. But then, of course, as you progress you get to, I think you get as far as Barclays Park. It's not too bad up to Barclays Park, but after you get to Barclays Park, then from there on,
all hell break loose.
and the thing that has frustrated me and puzzled me in the past and continues to is, why does it take the Ministry of Communication, I don't know, is the Ministry of Transport and Works now? I don't even know what it is called. Why does it take them so long to do something? I mean, you will see the Waterworks Department, the Water Authority, go and dig up a road. Who I think they should fix it back. But they
No,
will go dig up a road, Victor,
yes,
and it will stay months.
yes, because then it's not their responsibility to pave it; it's the MTW who we have to sit down and wait on.
So
So
there's no collaboration, there's no
pay all
networking, there's no
no,
communication
no,
between the ministries.
no. As
Huh?
long as the money is coming, they can do what they feel like.
You
That
see
is
the
why.
road, you
Mhm.
see the road they just did out by the Y in Wildy. And the moment the road finished, somebody gone out and dig it up. I mean, I don't get it understood.
You just wonder where's the coordination, or if there is coordination.
But it is a waste
No,
of
there can't be any
taxpayers' money.
coordination.
It's a waste of taxpayers' money, and
Hmm.
people are not being held accountable for it. This is
Hmm.
the thing that is angering Barbadians. They're paying so much in taxes. I am told, we are what? The fifth most taxed country in the world. I think it is. I believe it is the fifth. I stand to be corrected. In the world,
Hmm. You know,
without account.
I saw something happening on the East Coast Road. You know that I'm I'm a bit concerned about. Right, there was a failed project in Tent Bay, a failed project. Right, and I think that C.O. Williams Construction was responsible for that project. This is where they were building a jetty or slipway or something of that sort to accommodate the boats in Tent Bay. So that was a failed project. However, they set up a lot of gabions in Tent Bay. And you know the gabions are packed with rocks.
Yes, sir.
So now the gabion baskets rust and the rocks are falling to the sea. Now, I have not encountered thus far a gabion basket that is made out of stainless steel or brass or copper, a non-ferrous material that will not rust. I have not seen that gabion basket yet, so I speak subject to correction. I know that if you're going to establish a project like that in Tent Bay and you're using gabion baskets, you ought to use material that will not corrode, rust, and the gabion baskets collapse. I have seen, and you can go to Tent Bay and Bashable and see those gabion baskets collapsing and the rocks heading to the sea. My concern is that I'm seeing gabion baskets being used on those bridges on the East Coast Road. So
Yes,
they're
I saw that.
packing gabion baskets to the left, to the sea, whether it's to the
Yeah.
land side or to the seaside. I don't know if the gabion baskets are a new invention. If that the material being employed are non-ferrous material, they will not rust. So now we have a very innovative product coming out to the East Coast where we can pack the gabion baskets and they will not rust. I have not seen it. However, they're packing gabion baskets on the bridges to the seaside. So when the Chinese left here, all those gabion baskets, to my knowledge, based upon my observation of Tent Bay, that all those gabion baskets will rust and the rocks will collapse. That, in my opinion, is a no-no in the design of those bridges. There should be no gabion baskets. If you're going to use gabion baskets, there have to be a drainage system employed such that you do not use ferrous materials in the civil engineering works, because It has been used at Tembe. It is a failure at Tembe. So my conclusion is that it will be a failure on the East Coast Road. So that, to me, is a shortcoming, and
I
I'm
mean, I
concerned about
mean, I mean, Victor, we know that
that.
even in St. George, St. Thomas, that we get rusting from salt water because the island is windswept. I learned this in geography when I was at school. The island is windswept, and one of the strongest breezes comes from the east coast
Mm-hmm.
and sweeps the current the island. I mean, you got people all down in St. Michael and all up in Christchurch and St. Thomas and whatnot with things that are rusting,
Mm-hmm.
corroding. You got to
Mm-hmm.
watch even your window. You know the operational systems of the windows,
Mm-hmm.
because if it don't rust, they corrode. Even if it's aluminum, they corrode. You know, you get that build up on them, and it's just mind-boggling, you know, that we continue with all the technology that we're hearing around the world. I mean, don't we look anywhere to see, because I remember at one time, um, the Dutch, I think it was the Dutch that built the seawall in Guyana. I believe it was the Dutch, if my geographical history helps me correctly, if my memory serves me correctly. I believe it was the Dutch, who seemed to be the experts, in terms of these kind of things. Now, I don't know anything about the Chinese when it comes to this kind of stuff. I don't know anything about them, but what little I do know about the Netherlands is that they're really tops on matters to do with building where salt water is concerned. And I share that your concern that you have, but let me ask you this, you know, because you talk about you know, ministers and ministries doing their work. And I was just here pondering, you know, and somebody put it in the chat that there was supposed to be an account given twice a year. I think the person indicated, in the chat. If I can find it, I will just put it back there. He said that, there was supposed to be a account given to the country by the ministers twice a year, in terms of their performance. And I made a note and I thought to myself, but I would prefer see an independent adjudicator assess the minister's work,
Mm-hmm.
because no fisherman ain't going to tell you he fished bad. That's the old saying. Am I right? Is that right? I think that's the old
It's
saying,
spot on.
right?
It's spot on.
You know, and no fisherman is going to tell you his fish is bad.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you have an independent adjudicator that can assess, and I believe to some degree, this is what the Auditor General in terms of finance was doing. And of course, we know what happened where that is concerned. This is what the Public Accounts Committee in terms of finance is supposed to have been doing. And of course, we know what has happened where that is concerned. So is it possible that we could have an element, I don't know, a committee, an institution, something established in the country that will independently assess ministers' performance and determine if they should maintain their role or if their role should be changed?
Mm-hmm.
Because on the basis of the roadworks, I do not see going on in Barbados. I mean, Victor, everywhere you turn in this country, you can see more potholes than work being done to finish the surface of the roads.
Mm-hmm.
And it boggles me how you're going to go and strip a whole highway up by Dyton Griffith School, which, give you grant, wasn't perfect, but was a whole heap better than some of the potholes coming down in St. Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to go and spend millions of dollars on the highway coming across from I think that's the Damnita roundabout to the one at Waterford's Bottom. I don't know. I forget the names of the two of them. You're going to go and spend money resurfacing all of them when there are roads of this nature. Go try going up in St. Thomas. The other day I was coming across, um, by Jackson, you know, coming out by Cane Garden to come to Lears. And the traffic was so long, I decided to turn and go up through Jack in the Box Gully. And you laughing at me? You laughing at me? Tell the people for me, please. Tell the
The-
people, Victor.
yes,
Tell
you
them.
know,
Tell them.
but you know, I did the
Tell
same
them.
thing. You know, I did the same thing. And when I got there, I was so totally lost that as far as I'm concerned, there wasn't any signs
No,
showing where I should divert. None whatsoever.
but it was a
You
good
know,
thing it was in the day. It
yeah,
was a
but
good thing it was in the day.
luckily for me, at the time I was driving my 4x4, you know, so I took a cat road on the left. I took a cat road on the left, and you should see me, you know, I really went for lower.
Yeah, but that's King Grung and all
I
that you
went through.
going through.
Oh yes,
That's King Grung you
but
going
of
through.
course, and I enjoyed it because, of course, if I had taken out, I'd probably gone mad because there wasn't anything, any sign showing me in terms of diversion, none whatsoever. So I fell into the same boat. I made the mistake and attempted to use that route, hoping they can go up there and go through Jack in the Box. And I ended up in a car road going through a bush with the 4x4. But I enjoyed it. I came out and I smiled at the end, you
And
know,
and
because
you know and you know how long that road has been like that.
mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't get it. I can't get it. I don't understand why this administration seems to think that it can continue to fail the people on
Mm-hmm.
the basis of what is expected by the people of this country because
Mm-hmm.
they voted you in on the basis of what you told them you were going to do.
But we understand. We understand that work in the Scotland district and the money is voted for the bridges, the road in the Scotland district. We understand that there will be some form of discomfort. That is
Yes, you
understood.
do.
You know, we
That's understood.
expected that. But when you travel the East Coast Road, trouble. When you coming down Horsell, trouble. Don't expect to come from St. John and come to Foster Hall because that has always been trouble. So, however, now you seek to get to Bathsheba, it is trouble. So, how will the tourism sector in the Bathsheba area be affected? Taxis ain't coming. They ain't coming via the East Coast. They ain't coming via Horsell. They're not coming via Foster Hall. Those are the three roads. Of course, they're not going to come down the ridge, you know. So, how could the representative for St. Joseph sit down and develop any strategic plan that has led us, the people of St. Joseph, not only the people of St. Joseph, because tomorrow morning, Dr. Ferdinand, tomorrow morning, we will now start to see the tears from the eyes of the people when they start to get their children off to primary and secondary school in St. Joseph. The road networks, they're going to smell hell with all due respect. Because if I am traveling on the East Coast, and even on this season when I spoke to you coming up from down Shorey,
Yes, yes,
even when I get to the area there, Carawash, trouble. You know,
yes.
there isn't there isn't nobody directing the traffic. You know, during the course of the day, you get that. There's a big spotlight in the corner at the bottom of the wash, and you gotta hope for the best. A fella up front can blink the light, a fella down below can see the light blink and wait on and wait on, you know. Then you got 10 or 15 cars lined up on one side and 10 or 15 lined up on the other side, and they're waiting. And this is at a time when there is no school. When school starts back,
Oh my goodness.
trouble,
Oh my
trouble.
goodness. It's
And
going
the
to be a lot of
and,
trouble.
and,
But
the, and
that's
and the
tomorrow,
density,
Victor.
that's tomorrow, and
It's tomorrow.
the density of traffic will increase significantly, and that opens up the door for the probability of accidents. And if perchance we get an accident, serious or otherwise, on either Joy Road or the East Coast Road, and it has to be blocked, all hell break loose. And
But
it hurts me, you know, when I saw a guy on television who said that he had to add on another additional hour or two to his travel from Bridgetown home and back. Is an extra hour or two he has to account for. So he has to leave home an hour earlier and gets home an hour later. And they're going to be subjected to that for years, hoping that what happened in Dublin Road don't happen with any of those bridges that they're hopefully going to build in the next year.
And you know, Victor, let me make sure I get the right word. I will concede that when a lot of these roads were originally done, because my father would have been involved with a lot of the roads that were built in Belplain and St Andrew. You remember when they used to have the bridges that when the the rain fell, heavy water, you come pass over the bridge because the
Mhm.
water was rushing over the bridge. Some of them out there by, what's the name of the factory there in the bottom of Belplain? My father worked there as well. Haggett's factory
I guess, yeah.
out in that area.
Mhm.
And you know, I understand when we had lorries. You know, we had lorries, those vehicles that used to carry the canes with the sticks. They used to
Mhm.
stick up at the side, and you
Mhm.
load the canes. And I understand. I get it. I get it that you know the types of vehicles that we have today. I mean, we got some cars today, Victor, that weigh as much as the trucks that we used to carry the cane. We got some cars today that weigh as much as them, you know. And I understand, you know, some of those dump trucks and those commercial trucks that we see can now carry in a single load what 5 or 6 or 7 of those lorries used to carry. So, and you know that individual displacement of weight would be significantly greater than 5 lighter vehicles traveling over the same space of roadway. I get it. Okay, so my I get on the internet and I do research to find out how to fix things, how to do things, and all of that. Certainly, Victor, people in the Ministry of Transport and Works, whoever they are, technocrats, I don't care who they are, with all respect to them, certainly they could research to see how you can go about retrofitting roads to facilitate the uptick in terms of the weight of vehicles to ensure that what I'm looking at the screen right now does not happen again. And to be honest with you, Victor, I don't know what you call those things that they make again with the stones and the wire. What you call them again?
Mhm. Gabions.
Gabions.
Mhm.
I would not be surprised if some of the Gabions that my father and his teammate are still in good stead. Because I can't remember if they were out of
Mhm.
galvanized, if the wiring was those. I don't know what it was,
Mhm.
but I know that some of those roads that he would have fixed, I still drive over today as good roads. I still drive over down in Belplain and going up through the hill. I don't know all the areas down in there. So I got to the habit of when I was in rallies and so on, I just drove through areas and often I didn't even know what they called it. But I know where it is, you know. And I must say that certainly there must be. I mean, we're supposed to have engineers, and
Mhm.
I don't know what's happening in the Scotland district with the Chinese. I would imagine on the basis of some of the videos I watch online with the Chinese construction in China that the Chinese should be very good at what they do in terms of roadways and bridges and all of that. I mean, if you see some of the bridges and roadways that they have built in China, Victor, it's frightening to see how they have engineered them and how they have done them. So, you know, I mean, why in 2025 are we seeing this kind of thing on our roads?
Mhm.
Somebody is indicated here in the chat. Let me see if I can find it. That they're laying down the asphalt um, when it should be. I think this is the statement here. When it should be 3 inches thick, they're laying down 1.5 inches, so they are able to pave twice as many roads in terms of that. So you know, clearly
That's
that is
good.
the
Yeah.
issue. That is one of the issues that we're dealing with.
It's
Well,
it's deeper than
Victor,
that, you know. It's deeper
well,
than that, you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
because
It is.
my concern is that that road there, you know, the diversion road that was done in Joy Road. You know, I can recall Marcia when she was hosting the program. There was this caller who spoke to that about that road.
Mhm.
In actual fact, not only they put down 1.5 inches of barber green, but under that barber green there was mud. You know, so that
So
is where
no
that is
proper foundation laid
no
down.
proper
Yeah,
foundation
yeah,
at all.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. Well,
and
Victor,
those things
listen,
are
man.
happening in St. Joseph.
I want to thank you again for coming
Mhm,
in tonight. Because when I saw that article,
mhm,
and I know you'd already reached out to Marcy, but when I saw that
mhm,
article, because immediately what it said to me is that our infrastructure is having a significant impact on our tourism, or it can have a significant impact on our tourism.
mhm,
And the government has to really get serious about fixing the infrastructure of this country. They have had millions of dollars borrowed to do it. Millions.
mhm.
I would dare say maybe $500 million, based on the figures that I have seen from the time they went into office. We should have seen proper highways by now. But I want to thank you, Victor, for taking the time to be back with us again tonight. I gave you a couple of extra minutes, and Maxine, who's waiting in the wings, gave
Uh-huh.
you a couple of extra minutes too.
Well, let me
And
thank her. Let me thank
so
her in
you
advance.
better thank her. You better let me bring her in, and you better tell her thanks, boy, because I got to tell you, she is a
Thank
former
you very much,
minister.
Maxine. Thank you,
She
thank
Thank
you, thank
you.
you, thank
You're very
you.
welcome. You're very
Uh,
welcome.
she's a former minister. I
uh-huh.
take it she's still some
Mm,
kind of a teaching
mm,
a
mm.
teaching individual, and I know that sometimes these teachers have some belts that hanging around and some rulers hanging around. So you make sure you tell her thank you. Maxine, it's always a pleasure to have you joining us on this show. And I'm always delighted to be a host when you come on. I learn so much from you. And not only in terms of your knowledge, but in terms of the wisdom that you often express. And so I want to welcome you to our show tonight and to share what is on your mind with us this evening.
Thank you very much. And let me say, Victor, I was listening for the entire evening. And only last week, and this is part of what's on my mind. Only last week I had some friends here from Suriname, and I while one in the group had done several, tours of Barbados, there were a couple who had not really seen much of Barbados, and unfortunately, I had to decide with the. You know what I'm going to say, right? One of my favorite parts of Barbados. We had to navigate our way along the East Coast in a I don't know, in a way that I think is unfortunate. And
Yeah.
you mentioned the chaos that will unfold as of tomorrow, because school starts. It's for everybody, but it's going to be multiplied times over in relation to the challenges that you face. And we know that significant sums have been borrowed, but that is something that really uh, is worrisome. Is worrisome,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I really hope that we, meaning Barbadians, can hear a serious discussion. And
Mhm.
the sad thing is that one of the highest ranking officials in this administration and in previous administration of the Barbados Labour Party administration is the long-standing MP for St. Joseph. you know
Yes. Yes.
and we had a similar situation in St. Andrew for many years. But I will link that to something, because you sent me an interesting article earlier, and I don't know if Dave has it, but it is an article where the writer was referencing Mr. Peter Wickham's comment about voter apathy, and he would have sought to caution, in the context of Barbados, the Democratic Labour Party, and I would dare say other opposition parties. But I also I read the article, and it caused me to reflect on Wickham link declining turnout to failing opposition. Now, I know Mr. Wickham. I like Mr. Peter Wickham. I've known him for a long time. He was a student in my early days of teaching. He was a university colleague because he taught while I was still teaching. He was in political science, so I never taught him, but I've known him for a long time. And so when the headline suggests, you know, disillusionment with the opposition, that to my mind is not the only explanation for voter apathy. And I think that this is a headline. And if Dave scrolls down a bit, I would read the first paragraph. It says political scientist Peter Wickham is urging the Democratic Labour Party to pay close attention to recent election outcomes in Jamaica and Ghana. And I would dare say that any political party in the Caribbean, within CARICOM, would find itself wanting if it didn't pay attention. But the article goes on to say, because as I said, it wasn't written by him, it was written about his comments. It goes on to say, warning that low voter turnout in both countries signals deep disillusionment with opposition parties that fail to offer credible alternatives. He believes the same problem is unfolding in Barbados. Now, my background in management and decision making and problem solving tells me that there often is a more complex explanation to phenomena to issues than a single explanation. Now, in saying what he's saying, he says voter apathy to me speaks to a disinterest in supporting an alternative. And I would say that may be in part true, but I believe that there are other kinds of explanations, historic and political, as well as economic and social factors. And this is something that we need to look at. And so I would say to him that, and I am not an official spokesperson of the DLP. I am, as you said, Pastor Ferdinand, a former cabinet member and member of the parliamentary group, a member of the Senate, leader government business in the Senate. But one of the things that I have trained people in my years of teaching in management is that we need to analyze things as fully as possible and apply a level of objective analysis. Now, when I read this, and in fact, when I listen to myself reading it, what I am saying, what I'm also hearing is perhaps, and I'm not saying that this is what Mr. Wickham is setting out to do intentionally, but to present that as the only explanation might very well serve to color people's thinking. Because I would say that there are, in fact, multiple explanations which any political party, and certainly the one to which I belong, the Democratic Labour Party, any political party would need to pay attention. And I think this phenomenon of voter apathy is something that we have to look at. So in addition to talking about the alternatives, I would want to suggest that in addition to that, we also have to ask ourselves to what extent and I'll focus on Barbados in this case, to what extent are Barbadians applying the same rules that they have applied to previous administrations, and more specifically to the last DLP administration? To what extent are they applying the same rules to this administration? And I would want to suggest that perhaps one of the issues that people have to come to terms with is to ask themselves, to what extent are you seriously analyzing in an arm's length objective way the current administration? If I take, for example, and the performance of the current administration, because I have to ask myself, are Barbadians applying a different set of standards? And in talking about this apathy or willingness to, how should I put it, excuse or rationalize away the behaviors of this administration, To what extent are people doing that, and with what effect? So I'll give a couple examples. We talk about the road situation. We have had problems on the East Coast with road slippage, all kinds of things. But this administration not only promised to fix it, it has gone out there and borrowed a substantial amount of money. And the question is, and Victor can say, and I'm sure he said it, are you satisfied as a resident of that part of the country that the monies that have been borrowed to date have been spent wisely in addressing the problem? And Victor, I got an answer for you, and you can come out. And the answer would be no. I answer for you, but I'll ask you to comment later because I don't want to lose my train of thought. So in essence, what I'm saying is, when you look to evaluate the performance of this administration, I ask myself, to what extent are people not even bothering to think about these things and come to reasonable conclusions? So it isn't a question of not only failing to support an alternative. It is as if people have bought into the hype. People use the expression "drank the Kool-Aid" or whatever. I try to stay away from cliches, but I am not seeing people either spending time to seriously analyze what is before them. And I'll use another example. I heard you, Reverend Ferdinand, speak about the Prime Minister's presence first in Algiers, in Algeria, and now in Addis Ababa.
Ethiopia.
Yeah, she's in Ethiopia attending an Africa CARICOM summit. Now, let me say very quickly, as a Pan-Africanist and as a former foreign minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, I have full support for Barbados and CARICOM's participation in building relations with the continent of Africa. And I'll say quickly why, and then I'll speak to that as part of the contradictions that make people wonder if they should, that makes me make the case that there are issues beyond the alternative opposition that influence people's attitudes. Go ahead.
And I will say to you, Maxine, I agree with you. I embrace that perspective as well.
So you have a situation where the Prime Minister travels. Now, she's gone to Addis Ababa, she's gone to Algeria. And my position is you make the most of opportunities that are there. Africa is on the rise. It is the continent of the future. It is our for Black people in Barbados, or persons of Black ancestry predominantly, that is where it is. The world is looking to Africa. And I am happy to say that Africa is telling the world it is not going to be business as usual. That's right. That makes me extremely happy. But that does not excuse how the Prime Minister leaves this country. And let me explain. There's a tradition and a sound set of reasons for that tradition of the country being informed about government ministers traveling, including the Prime Minister of Barbados. We are told where they're going, what they're going for, and they're arms of government. The Government Information Service traditionally has been the people who cover ministries and so on. Each ministry is assigned an officer or was assigned an officer, and we are informed through official means. Now, somebody sent me, I think it's an Instagram message put up by the Prime Minister indicating that she had arrived in Algiers. Now, that's fine. If you want to communicate instantly. In fact, when the person sent that to me, I smiled because it was through an Instagram posting that I learned of the burial of the flag in Ghana, because while it was happening, somebody had posted it and it was circulated globally. And so, the whole world saw that. So that is fine, but that is not a replacement for official communication. And before people start to say, it don't matter, times change, but the more things change, the more things stay the same in a lot of respects. There are clear reasons why we are told when our government officials who represent us travel. We also should know, who is in the delegation. Now, from what I recall, and I forgot to send the Instagram thing to comment from the Prime Minister to Dave. If he can find it, or if I get it later on, I will share it. But in presenting that, I think reference was made to flying on a private jet, and I can tell you that when that jet left Barbados, within hours or less, because it took about less than 8 hours to get from Barbados to Algiers, I had information on that jet, the flight path and everything, because that's public info. That information, for anybody who is an airplane enthusiast or who's into shipping, you can follow these things.
Yep.
And so it is clear that these things, this jet left here. Now, my question is, to whom does it belong? Now, I think in the Prime Minister's message, she might have been thanking the African Bank or whatever. I don't know. But there are other times when there are allegations made that the Prime Minister is traveling or has traveled on a private jet owned by a private citizen. Now, my question, therefore, is there a quid pro quo in terms of that? What am I giving to get, or am I paying? Is that person offering a commercial service? Now, if you say to me that we are looking at efficiency of time, because clearly we heard the Prime Minister speaking in a press conference about a minister, some of us say quitting for personal reasons, aka also known as getting fired, and dressing it up. But the Prime Minister was here today and somewhere else tomorrow. Now, that speaks to efficiency of time use and so on. That sounds good. But at the same time, if this is facilitated not strictly on an arm's length transaction, in other words, in the same way that the cabinet has a cabinet paper which says the Prime Minister is traveling from Barbados to Timbuktu, and they're going by commercial airlines to get on a plane. I know it takes long, and you take a flight from Barbados to London and whatever, and all these things are costed and are captured in cabinet papers. My question is, can anybody, let's say the Public Accounts Committee, if the Public Accounts Committee could meet, can anybody have access to that information to say that this, if it is provided gratis, who is providing it? And I can tell you that working with the previous Prime Minister, who was not at all happy with that, his thing was that we pay our way, but sometimes these things are done. We have traveled to meetings where, for example, to get to Cuba would have sent a plane and taken foreign ministers and heads of government and heads of state to Cuba because of the difficulty of getting it at a particular point in time, or to make it easy, etc. Those things can happen, but those things are spelled out and they are known, they're recorded, and the information is there available. So when we start to talk about contradictions or lack of information, my question is, what is it? Now, Adrian Hines says that I did extensive research on this. It starts at about $11,000 US per flight hour. And it's a question of cost. Now, I would say this. Now, if I have this information and it is a commercial transaction, and it is 11, that's 22,000 Barbados dollars per flight hour. And you multiply that by 7 hours or whatever. And if the plane is carrying a delegation, now I need to know You know, that's the other thing. We don't know who the delegations are. We hear of these massive delegations going to UAE or wherever they went and whatever, but so in essence, a simple bit of information can tell us whether it is also cost efficient. But we have no information.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so the, the question really is, when we move away from, or when we see the government moving away from the normal ways of providing transparent information about the movement of the prime minister and these things, then we have to ask the question why, and to what extent are we seeing decisions taken which can open up the prime minister herself as a person often referred to in travels, or the foreign minister, or any minister of government, or any delegation representing Barbados, to accusations of taking favors or getting favors. You know, if those such allegations are made, then we have to be concerned, because we have to match that against the whole issue of good governance and transparency. Adrian is saying that the jet belongs to Vista Jet, a private jet operator. Now, this private jet operator, as I said, is this person now? I'm going to pause here and follow Adrian's comment. Now, there are private jet operators that would offer services to corporate entities, to high net worth individuals, and I am sure to governments. My question, therefore, is,
Footing the bill.
did VistaJet, if this is in fact what was used, was this company or this private jet operator, the services of that company, were they retained by the government of Barbados? And if so, to transport whom? Because it was a CARICOM. Now, this is a thing that can be easy. There's a CARICOM, Africa CARICOM summit. The summit suggests a summit is a meeting of heads of government, typically. Sometimes some heads don't go, they may delegate authority. Typically with summits, you would see the head of government or head of state. And for those who might forget why the difference between a head of government and a head of state refers to a president. In the case of Guyana or Suriname, some of our member states have presidents, head of government. In other cases of some CARICOM countries like Barbados, you have a prime minister. And so the question is, were we paying as taxpayers for something, and it may not, something was said. So we would need to hear categorically from Adrian. Now, let me just go back from New Jersey to Grenada to Barbados, Algiers to Ethiopia using 11. We are talking about approximately $283 Barbados. Now, again, Adrian, I would have, before I comment on the significance of the $283,000, I would have to ask something that I think I started and didn't finish. What's the capacity of this private jet? Did it transport delegations or a delegation? And if it is one or both, how big were these delegations, or how big was this delegation? Because all of that would factor in. Because if you have a delegation of 3 people going somewhere, and they're traveling business class, which I use business class because that's what I travel, how I travel for 10 years at taxpayers' expense rather than first class. You can then do some calculations and you look at cost savings and you look at time savings, but we don't know. We just wake up one morning and if you're not on Instagram, you wouldn't see, and if you're not following the Prime Minister, you wouldn't see that until somebody asks you a question or poses. So I think, I'll pause because I've been hearing my voice for a while and I haven't been looking at the time. But I would say this, Pastor Ferdinand, in respect of the article that made reference to Mr. Wickham, who is perhaps seeking to paint a picture of an opposition, and more specifically the Democratic Labour Party as the main opposition party, as perhaps unattractive. I want to say to, and as an alternative, I want to say to Mr. Wickham that that sounds good, except that life is not static. In respect of what we have seen play out in the last 2.5 years, on including the present, a lot of things have changed. I want to say to Barbadians, as you read that article, that if you want to talk about political apathy, you have to, there are a lot of factors. And I sent Dave something, I don't know if he saw it. It was an article because, as I said, you have several factors which explain apathy. But there was an article which I found interesting, and this is it here, coming out of the recent election in Guyana. You know that we in the Caribbean put big store on the presence of observers. And I found this article very interesting. And it said it's a EU observers drop bombshell, says ruling party stacked the deck in Guyana's elections. And if you scroll down a bit, you will see a bit of the story. It says Georgetown, Guyana, September 3rd, 2025. The European Union's election observation mission has blown the lid off Guyana's September the 1st general and regional elections, warning that while the vote was peaceful, the playing field was anything but fair. In a blistering preliminary report released at the Pegasus Suites, EU chief observer Robert Biedron accused the ruling People's Progressive Party Civic, that's the PPPC, of blurring the line between state and party, using public resources and unchecked financing to give itself a massive head start. Now, I would want to say, okay, let me just read the other paragraph.
Before you go on to that, Maxine, just let me bring Theory in, because I wanted to get a young person's view on a lot of this stuff, and he's coming in to share on whatever we're discussing. So just let me bring him in as well, because we want to have some discussion. We're hopefully going to have a call-in segment as well, as long as I can get that rolling. Not sure yet with regards to that, but Theory, we want to welcome you to the show tonight. Are you hearing us okay?
Yeah, I'm hearing you good. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we're
Yes.
hearing you clearly. I trust you've been having a listening ear to what we're talking about. We're sharing on a number of things tonight, and as you would recall, I mentioned a few of the things to you that we were touching on. Um, Maxine has been looking at the aspect of the aspect of apathy that Mr. Wickham has indicated, is one of the ruling aspects of what the future could hold, where our elections are concerned, and also the aspects of transparency and accountability. I would call it, Maxine. I think, in terms of the Prime Minister and the government indicating when the PM is traveling, who's traveling, and this type of thing. And the thought running through my mind there, Maxine, is, God forbid, but should something happen with that aircraft, we wouldn't even know our prime minister was out the country and on board, but we can talk about that. So
Yeah, that's
Theory,
true.
welcome to the show, and I'm just trying to get this. I can't get this thing removed from in front of your face for me to see you. Let me see. Um, okay, let me go back again. No, it still stays in front of your face. So but welcome to the show, my friend. God bless. What are your thoughts? I hope you've been listening, but what are your thoughts initially as we engage this discussion?
First of all, I just want to say good night to the panelists and to the people of
Good
Barbados.
night.
Good night.
My thoughts on it are very clear. I believe that yes, we do need the Prime Minister, anyone else who travels on behalf of Barbados, to indicate that they are doing so, given the importance of integrity. But for me as well, I think that it's very important that we have some sort of body that holds our individuals accountable. Yes, Prime Minister is basically the highest, or they say practically the highest power in the land.
But the thing about it is that you still need someone who can be that check and balance. I know it was supposed to be the opposition, but I think the fact that we've seen what has happened with the 30 love, not once but twice, we know that we need something in addition to that to ensure the security of our politics, ensure the security of our integrity, of our leaders, etc., etc., and we could have the conversation from there.
Yeah, Maxine, I know you're wanted to comment on that article you sent to Dave. I actually did see it, and I found it rather interesting. But I want to throw a thought out here in terms of the voter apathy. Um, when we had the elections, and you all can correct me, when we had the elections in 2022, I think that was during the pandemic, there was a minority turnout of voters, if my mind serves me correctly. It was not the normal. I think it's usually up in about what, Maxine, 70 something percent of the
Not,
voter
I don't
normally
think we've
turns
had
out.
70 something in recent years, but it
No,
certainly was substantially lower. I would have to
it was
look at
somewhere in the 30 to 40% if
40,
my
40
mind
some,
serves.
yes.
Yes,
It's
somewhere down in that area.
low, yes.
Yeah, and I am just wondering, if uh, I don't take what has happened in Guyana and what has happened in Jamaica as necessarily a final determination as what happened in Barbados, because the demographics are so dramatically different to my mind. We, for just by way of my view, we have a much stronger currency to start off with. We have well, I shouldn't say we have. We do have in my mind, a very informed electorate, very informed people. We do have uh, two strong parties, regardless of what has happened. We do have two strong parties. To my mind, again, Maxine, you could correct me because I don't always get these things right, but I have seen elections won in Barbados with 52 to 48 or 51 to 49, that kind of thing in percentage, government and opposition, if my mind serves me correctly. Um, so I don't know that a carte blanche statement regarding apathy necessarily applies within the context of Barbados's demographic. And I just want to throw that out there within the context of what you were sharing and theory and
I'm gonna respond, and I have a question for Thierry as well. You're correct. Well, 2022 was made even worse by restricting people who had
yes.
COVID and so on from voting. What I would say in relation to apathy, two things, because I'm going to, so let me put the question to Thierry. You can think about it while I make the point, which is what are his thoughts about apathy and on the part of young people. But I want to say this in relation to the election, and I agree with you. We can't make a categorical statement about what to expect in Barbados or like. And as I say, I appreciate Mr. Wickham flagging it, but I think it requires some in-depth analysis. And I want to make this point that when we look at apathy, it works in two ways, because assuming that the opposition, as he said, is not viewed as a viable alternative, then you would expect people will vote for the incumbent in this case, that is for the government. But what we saw in the case of Barbados is that there was a fall off in votes for the Democratic Labour Party, but they did not translate in votes for the Barbados Labour Party. And if you analyze constituency by constituency in the two elections, 2018 when the DLP lost, and 2022, it will be interesting to look and analyze and see the level of fall off in numbers for the Barbados Labour Party candidates. So what that says, and I like to tie things in, maybe because we are talking about international reputation, etc. One of the points that I would argue is that in the face of the popularity of the Prime Minister internationally, that has not translated in significant increases of votes for her. But I want to hear Thierry speak about his thoughts on voter apathy at the level of young Barbadians. So over to you. But I flagged that for further consideration, Pastor Ferdinand and
Okay.
Victor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maxine, for the question. When it comes to apathy, I think we prefer more to give examples. It was actually in class, I think it was Tuesday, and one of my lectures we did something pertaining to computer science, and one of the questions were, who is Ralph Thorne? And no one knew who he was. They didn't know that he actually became the president of the DLP. So I use that as the example to say that I believe that one, the DLP needs to make themselves more aware to the youth. Yes, they are trying with the different segments online, but they have to boost their strategy. I think that is where we're going to see persons, or have been seeing persons not being so interested in the political landscape, because it's just the perception of, oh, it's just me and Mottley. For example, something that is a trend now. Every time it's something good, they say, oh, thank Mia. I've literally seen that on videos. I've literally seen persons saying, I only got 100 Mia Mottley dollars. So they put me as our honorable prime minister's name behind everything now pertaining to me and Mottley dollars and that type of stuff. So the branding of the BLP is so strong now that persons may vote for them. No, pertaining to the percentage of persons who are not necessarily voting is one. They're so intelligent and so not fooled by a lot of the political slang, political schemes, or in modern term we call it politics, that they're not interested in voting for persons, right? Because obviously some politicians come around only when it's time to vote. The other section I'm speaking for on the aspect of the youth is persons who are just so busy with life and have so much things going on, they are not really interested or keeping track of what is going on. Leading back to my original example, because persons, as I said before, are so busy that they didn't know who actually is the Honorable Ralph Thorne. So just giving that to show the perspective is just the branding of the BLP is so strong that they have their voter amount. Then the persons who may necessarily want to vote for the BLP, they're not actually getting attracted. And then obviously the well west of voters who are not voting at all because they're not interested, because they're so tired with the politics and they're so tired of the promises being delivered on both sides. So that's a synopsis of it.
I have a question, just a quick follow-up, Ferdinand,
Uh-huh.
in terms of this, because, I just try to cast my memory back to my days as a 22-year-old. I think I have Thierry's age kind of close. I would have been in my final year at KFL, 1978. And of course we're all busy. You can't even think that's a long time ago here. Look, you try to figure out to 1978. Let me see if I can remember what I heard about that period.
Oh my
But
goodness.
you were saying people are so busy, but maybe it's the era. But I remember, when I was a student, in second, in fact, for the entire, well, my first 2 years I was part-time, so I was working and less involved in campus life. But in the 70s, well, I guess we in the region, Barbados itself, would have been the level of political awareness and involvement. So when you say people are busy with life, politics was very much part of our life back then, and it is interesting, as you said, people, I mean, people were very much part of that. You had a budget speech and you would rush home. Well, I guess there were fewer options. So it is interesting to hear that. It's just that for me, busy with life meant included in that busyness was an interest in politics. But obviously now times have changed. People perhaps are more cynical, situations have changed. But I just found that interesting.
May I add something, Pastor
Yep.
Ferdinand?
Yeah, sure.
Something quickly. When I say busy, I don't mean like busy pertaining to activities. I'm speaking pertaining to the aspect of gaining money, right, or income, because it's very difficult, especially as a young person in Barbados, to survive here in this country. So I speak for myself, especially like it's go. So when this comes to anything else, is very difficult, and that's where it's at right now. It's just persons are just so um completely involved in themselves trying to
Living,
survive.
surviving. Okay.
So as
Getting
that
ahead.
Marva M. Hunt said, young people only vote because of money, which is the truth, because at the end of the day, things are hard here. So that's what it is.
Yeah, well, there's just so much when it comes to the youth. There's just so much happening, and so many aspects and so many directions in terms of what's going on with them. That it certainly is not going to be an easy task in terms of, in my view, in terms of attracting them. Um, Yesterday, I got quite upset when somebody spoke about auntie me. I said, "Stop it!" I said, "Stop it! Don't call her auntie. Nothing. That's foolish." I said, "Stop that," because that mentality leads one to suggest that a person can do whatever they like and it's okay. And I don't. I simply do not subscribe to that. But listen, guys, I want to shift gears a little bit because we just have a few more minutes left, and I want to engage all of you in the context, of course, of what's going to be happening tomorrow. As you know, school reopens tomorrow, and there are a number of issues, a number of concerns that have come about as a result of that. I want to play a video, and then I want to read a comment with regards to the commencement of school. I'm not sure if I can get all of it read, but I'm going to try to read as much as I can. A comment made by the Democratic Labour Party spokesperson on education, Ms. Felicia Dujon, and let's engage a little bit of discussion with regards to it. And of course, to the loyal opposition, those of you who have joined us on the show tonight, this is going to be the segment where you will be able to call in as well and express your views, your concerns, ask your questions. 2367000. I'm sure they're going to put it up there for you. 2367000. We're going to be making that opportunity available to you. But Dave, I think you have that video. And this video is by, I think we all know Mr. Abed from Abed's. And I found it very interesting, the expression of Mr. Abed. It sent, to me, it was sent very serious ripples through accountability, responsibility, everything to do with government. So I'm just going to let you play that, Dave, and then I'd like to read an extract or two from Ms. Dujon's comments with regards to the commencement of school, because we have been told that all schools, I think is how it was announced, all schools will be ready for opening tomorrow. So, Dave, go ahead and play this video by Mr. Abed, please.
Something's not adding up. But truthfully, the level of need we've seen this year has surpassed anything we've seen in previous years. And it worries me that year after year, this level of need keeps increasing. The country is at 6.5% unemployment. The central bank tells us the economy is growing, and yet we see all these people who are in needs. Something's not adding up.
Yeah, it's not a very long extract, but I think it raises some very pertinent questions, and is open for comment. Let me just read a couple of the comments from Ms. Dujon. She spoke with regards to the government scrambling to patch up schools infrastructure at the 11th hour, and I'm quoting from the article that was written, in which she dismissed the ministry's touted comprehensive maintenance plan as crisis management dressed up as policy. The fact that the ministry had to rush to complete 8 weeks of emergency work at St. Luke's, Brighton, costing over $500,000, is proof of the government's failure to plan and maintain schools properly, she said in a statement. For 30 weeks, children and teachers were displaced across community centers and churches. That is not proactive governance. It is disgraceful disruption of education. Dujon said Barbadians should not be fooled by fresh coats of paint and hasty repairs. Now, just days before reopening of schools, the ministry is boasting about air quality tests and paint jobs, as if Barbadians should be grateful that children finally have bathrooms and rodent-free classrooms. These are basic necessities, not luxuries. The government wants praise for fixing crises of its own making. Ms. Dujon said the Mottley administration had developed a pattern of delay and denial, followed by a scramble to claim credit. This is the same government that promised transformation by 2028, while children continue to face unsafe environments today. This is a government that governs by slogans, reacting only after parents, teachers, and unions raise alarms. Barbadians know the pattern: delay, deny, then scramble under the cameras. The DLP has set out what it describes as a responsible standard for educational leadership, one grounded in consistent planning, accountability, and student centered governance. Education must never be reduced to political theater, Dujon declared. Parents do not want excuses. Teachers do not want last minute disruptions. Students do not want promises. They want safe schools and serious planning. This government cannot be trusted to deliver either. Barbadians deserve a DLP government that will end the cycle of neglect, plan with foresight, and put our children first. I'll just stop there for the time being. But I believe too one of the comments that I heard had to do. I think I saw a clip by the chief education officer treating to the aspect and the usage of cell phones in the schools, and that it would be limited, I think, now to fourth, fifth, and sixth formers, where they will only be allowed to use them in schools, in classrooms, for the purposes of educational involvement, in things like AI, and that during school hours, every other classroom where children have cell phones, the cell phones are to be turned off. I would comment on something else there, but I want to leave that out there for you all, maybe to contribute to it. I don't know if I could start probably with you, Victor. Your thoughts on what we have just heard from Mr. Abed and what Ms. Dujon has expressed.
You made a comment there just now that just bothered me, and as a former teacher, I don't know how you're going to ask children to turn off their cell phones.
Sorry, can
Yeah.
I just cross you quickly for a minute,
Yeah.
Victor? I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
This is for the loyal opposition. Please call in, but please call in on WhatsApp if you can. 2367000. That's the number on WhatsApp. Okay, if you can do that, we would appreciate it. We'll await your calls and we'll comment while we're awaiting those calls. Sorry, Victor. Please go ahead.
Do we expect teachers to be policing whether a child turns off their cell phone or not? As a former teacher, you confiscate because in my day, I take your phones, and the phones would have been kept in the office. And at the end of school, then I return your phones. But now at this stage, you're going to be asking students from first to third form, to turn off their phones. Who will police that? Teachers are going to check and see if a phone is turned off or not. It makes no sense.
Yeah, and I think the chief education officers also made it clear it was to be turned off, not set on vibrate or anything, but it had to be turned off.
Or else, that makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. Period. It is worthy that one seeks to intervene as far as the use of cell phones are concerned, but I don't see that methodology working. I have my reservations there relative to what to Abed, is
Before you go into that comment, I think we
yeah.
have a caller.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take the call, and then you can go into the your comments on Mr. Abed's statements. Good evening, caller, and welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Please go ahead. Hello. Hello. We're not hearing. We're not hearing you. No, I'm just hearing some noise, but we'll try that again, Victor. We'll just try to get that caller back on the line. But please go ahead and make your comment concerning what Mr. Abed expressed.
Well, you talk about 6.5%, unemployment. Um, you know, during one of my exercise sessions, morning and passing the area there of Parcel, you know, the construction workers there, um, there were Chinese and Indians, you know.
Hmm.
And when you go on the East Coast Road, they're Chinese. So I'm it just really baffles me to what extent are we um, really looking at the employment of our people, our Bajans. Have they been trained? I know that prior to the building boom, there was an effort by the ministry and to train artisans to take up these particular roles when the construction boom started. You know, that is something the ministry can speak to what extent those efforts um, were materialized, you know, with some degree of justification. But I do have my concerns here that what Mr. Abebs is saying relative to the 6.5%, when we look at the actual employment situation now in Barbados, especially as it relates to mills, I'm seeing that a lot of the construction industry is now being, you know, supported by foreign workers rather than Bajan workers. So his concern, yes, I do agree, but the construction boom, we have seen an influx of foreign workers, but how can we speak to the effective engagement of the Bajan construction industry or
Uh-huh.
individuals, you know, who would have been trained or should have been trained to take
Yes.
on these roles? We don't have that.
Yeah, right. I want to welcome Rose to our group tonight as well. She was scheduled to be in a little earlier, but I want to thank her so very much for staying in and joining us tonight. Rose, welcome to the show this evening. I know we only have a few minutes and we're into the discussion period, but it's a joy to have you join us. And we do have a caller on the line, so I'll come right back to you in just a moment. Good evening, caller, and welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Can you turn off your radio or whatever it is you're listening to in the background? Because we are getting some feedback from that. Go ahead, please. Hello? 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 Good evening. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Good evening. Still not picking them up. Mhm. Yes, good night. Whoops. Yes, hello? Hello, are you hearing us? Good evening. Are you hearing us? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, yes. Good evening. Welcome to the
Night.
Marcy Week Show.
I'm not hearing.
You're not hearing us?
All right, go ahead. Hi, good night. Good night. I want to direct my question to Miss Marcy McCLEAN, but I'm not really hearing you because it was Miss McCLEAN in 1976 after Mr. Barley's power. Can you tell me how big was Mr. Barrett's salary at that point in time? The reason why I'm asking this question because you know now, I know that the Prime Minister today got almost $250,000. But we, the poor people, back in the 70s and the 80s, we were working for $200, $300, $400, and $500. But today we are still getting the same money, but the politicians getting way, way more money. So today the poor people still getting the same money that was getting back in the 80s, but and the politicians today is getting way more money. But the cost of living has gone way up. A drink back in the 80s was under $1. Bus fare in the 80s was under $1. Everything was reasonable, but not everything is skyrocket. But our wages still remain the same, and that's got to be a problem with this country. You hear me, Mr. McCLEAN? I can't really hear you, but I can go use the TV.
Okay, all right. We got your question, and you can listen in. You can listen in for her response. Maxine, you heard the question he asked was how big was Mr. Barra's salary when he was in office, and he's asking it within the context of the fact that salaries from a political standpoint, from politicians' standpoint, has changed. Well, it would appear the salaries for the average person, the average worker on Barbados, has not really increased in terms of the cost of living in the country.
I don't, I can't tell you what the salary of Mr. Barrow was. I would have to go and research that.
Mhm.
I also would have to ask the question um, about relativities. My first salary, and this is for Thierry, in 1974, I was earning less than $200 a month as a clerical officer. But, as I said, I don't know what the relativities are, because that is what you would have to look at. What was the salary paid to those politicians and workers in certain categories then, and compare it with now for the same kind of categories, etc. Um, I am more concerned about the delivery, because you see, persons look at that number and I smile, because, and I'm not saying that the politicians relative to other categories of workers don't get a lot of money, but I can tell you that private sector salaries, when you look, I served on the board of large corporation, commercial banks, and so on, and the salaries and bonuses that I saw in the private sector, um, you know, double and so on. So, but I think the important issue for me is that they are earning the salary that we are paying them, and that is the difficulty. Are they
Are they
justifying that
earning it?
salary? Are they earning? Are they doing the work? And perhaps it would be interesting to hear. Um, I would call on Thierry first, because as a young man looking at this, because I have gone through the system, and some people may say I'm biased, but no, I think I have a longer perspective of, and a wider perspective of salaries, private sector, public sector. And so I tell people I focus less, not that I don't focus on it, because I've seen some increases that I don't understand to be justified. I mean, when I was a politician, we didn't get 3 weeks vacation. We got none. Those things have been introduced. I was not a member of parliament, but when I was a member of cabinet, my MP colleagues did not have that additional person to go to funerals and whatever else they're paid to do, and MPs did not sit on boards. So there's some governance issues that we can talk about that go beyond salary, but maybe Thierry can comment on the
Can comment
callers.
on that. Well,
And
just
let me
before
say hi
Thierry,
to Rose. Um,
just before we hear from you, Theory, let's welcome Rose into the team tonight. Rose, you just need to unmute. We want to welcome you to the show. I know you were scheduled to be on a bit earlier, but we're going to see if we can have you in tomorrow if you're available, because we certainly would like to talk about the whole educational system and what has been happening as we go into the start of school. And I'll be handling the show again tomorrow night as well. But we want to welcome you to the show tonight. Just let me give you a couple of seconds to just give your greetings, and then we'll hear Theory's response. We're not hearing you. Not hearing you yet. If you're hearing us, you're not muted, but we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you when you speak.
Are you hearing?
Yes, we are. Whatever you did turned you on.
Magic.
Magic,
Magic.
you turn on the switch.
Yeah, I tell you, she hit the right switch there. Good evening and
Magic.
welcome, welcome, welcome. I know we're at the end of the show, but it's still great to have you on for the last few minutes anyway.
Thank you for your kind welcome as usual. And I just want to greet the viewers as I normally do. Good evening, loyal sons and daughters, all firm craftsmen and women of her faith. And as usual, it's been interesting listening to the other panelists and being educated and enlightened and made aware. And it serves me well, and I do believe it serves all the viewers here in Barbados and in the diaspora, um, about matters that are of national interest, national concern, and that we are responding as appropriately and as informed as we can to keep our fingers and our thumbs on what's going on. So, again, thank you for the opportunity, and I will continue to listen in as I have been to my fellow panelists. Thank you.
And well, of course, I mean, we're at the call-in segment, so we'll all be throwing in our comments and so on. Theory, I think Maxine threw a comment your direction. Let's hear from you on that.
Um, Hey, Auntie Rose, how are you doing? You hear me? She can. Y'all can hear me? Everyone can hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can hear you. Rose, are you hearing us?
Not, not, not as clear. You were saying, how are you doing?
Yes, yes, good. Oh, just saying.
Good to see you too, and always good to hear you and to get that perspective from you, and to see where we converge, where we are on the same page, and to be stimulated to see things through the eyes of the youth and how we can go forward. Um, Most of us here have pension cards. I drive on the bus just flashing my card, and you're far from that, young man. So it's good to have you in
Good to
our
have you.
company and to hear from you, and actually to tell us how can we get persons like yourself involved in national change.
Yes, yes, yes. So,
Um,
I'm researching on political literacy. What
yes,
would you tell us as Barbadians that we need to become more of and to do to bring around
yes.
that
The
change
change
and
that we need.
the
Yes,
change we need
that we need.
politically and in political representation?
Yeah. Well, go
to
right ahead, Theory.
to answer the question that was offered to me, I believe there's certain elements that occur. I'm not a um learned, extremely learned person pertaining to economics, but for me, I believe that we have to look at one, what a person is buying and selling, or have been buying and selling from the person mentioned the 80s till now, right? We also have to look at the fact that we are not producing any goods, so that to offset certain costs, right? Or I should say any major goods that would help to offset certain costs. So for me, it's a matter of us understanding as a people that we've been importing, and then the merchants, when they have to pay the customs duties, they still have to make a profit. And when the cost of goods over there, when I say over there, I mean overseas, goes up, obviously the cost will go up here. So this keeps on happening, and then obviously it reduces the person's ability to spend. That's one.
Hmm.
Two, on the front of government, no persons could correct me that have the experience, but it's just my perspective on it. I believe if we are not seeing an increase in taxation, when I say increase in taxation, I mean in terms of earnings from taxation, then the government may not be able to pass on those benefits to the people, which have occurred countlessly. Something that has occurred, and the merchants, they may not like me for saying this, is that there have been instances where the merchants could pass on savings and did not pass on savings to the people of Barbados.
That's right. That's right.
So the thing about it is a mix of these elements that we now have to come and say, okay, what can we do to rectify this problem, right? Is it a matter of the people producing more, to offset said costs. It is a matter of we are bringing more foreign companies, or even Marcy will tell you what we're doing in the tech space, bringing more, creating more technological companies, creating more manufacturing companies, so that we can send out or export our goods. I know we speak about the repatriation essence of our economy, but the thing about it is that can only carry a country so far, especially Barbados that has a population of roughly 280,000. If we are saying we want to repatriate and we want to send persons overseas, then we have the same problem with population. So the thing about it is a chain reaction, and it's something that we have to really have a conversation about. I believe that throughout the years, the leaders are extremely intelligent, but certain periods of time we made decisions and we've not really gotten a chance to see what will be the repercussions. If a person knew the repercussions, they didn't really care to change it. And that leads into what I want to speak about the education aspect, but we'll stop here and then when you call me again, I will speak about the education aspect.
Okay, thank you so very much. Maxine,
Yeah,
you
And
were,
Pastor pretty quickly to think that he said he's going to answer just off the top of his head, and how fluent, eloquent, and objective and clear thinking was your response.
response. He had a
Thank
good
you.
teacher. He had a good teacher.
That's why I love young people and have children. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
My grandmother is a economist type of finance
person.
yes.
finance person, right? So he taught me all the time.
But he's also, let me tell y'all, a brilliant mind.
Yes.
And we will get to explore that one of these times. But I want to quickly comment on Mr. Abed's what appears to be a dilemma for him. And I would say that clearly the way in which unemployment is being calculated or monitored is perhaps in need of a review. And even if those numbers are quote unquote correct, it is saying that people who are employed are perhaps not earning a living wage, a wage on which they can, a livable wage, a wage that allows them to live at some acceptable minimum. Because here he says he has never had so many requests with assistance for back to school, and that is a reality. I was leaving church this morning when one of my fellow congregants was walking back to her car and having spoken to another person, and she was in essence asking for some support for some parent who has, I think, 3 school-age children, and she was complaining that the person came to her late, and I have seen several entities doing the same thing. So what it really says to me is that a bald unemployment statistic, and as I said, one, I question whether the way of computing it reflects what is real, and two, if we take that number as real, whether or not people are earning a living wage. But I would also say this: am I moving around? The area in which there is activity is construction. But I will also say this: am I moving around? Who I am seeing on construction sites are non-nationals, and more so, many of them are not CARICOM nationals. In fact, right now I'm investigating something that was drawn to my attention, and I told the person, before I speak about it, I will need to have certain bits of information. And I will say this though: part of the concern that the person has is they're speaking about the conditions under which some of these workers are living. Two, the kind of pay that they're receiving, and the ability, because people are working here. THIERRY spoke about remittances, I think, or getting people back home, or people going over a season and contributing from a distance.
Let me interrupt you quickly, Marcy. Remember your last word. We do have a caller on the
Okay, go
line, so
ahead.
just remember
Yes,
your last word. All right. Good
yes.
evening, caller. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, we can hear you.
I want to make a small contribution here.
Yes, sir. Please go right ahead.
Barbados have developed into a begging nation. We are talking about everything is contribution. If we don't create an environment where the people of Barbados can work, as opposed to everybody contributing and begging, we just had crop over. And there was everybody walking up and getting on. We just had the Carrie Festa, and everybody was walking up and getting on and saying how beautiful Carrie Festa was, how great crop over was. But now we have time to send school to children. Is it that we are living on ignorance? Is it that we are a begging nation? Is it that we don't accept reality? How come after all these years, Barbados is descending into a begging nation where all the things that once made Barbados a beautiful nation? We had the cave where the country could make money. We had the bank that was given away. We had the Bisco that was one of the best biscuit factories in the world. We had the trawlers. We had the dry dock. How come we have descended into a begging nation when every time there's something for the children to go back to school, everybody is begging? It's this time that we in Barbados wake up and see that as much as we are talking and saying this and saying that, we are descending into a begging nation. And we are being led into this by the Prime Minister, you know. We talk about how much good economists we have, and nobody, none of the economists, none of them can see and understand and show the people of this country what it takes, what it needs to achieve so that we would not be beggars. Why is there so much talk about it and not no reality? And what's going on? I wouldn't like.
Thank you very much, caller. Appreciate you calling in so much. Thank you very, very much. Great observation. Of course, those of you that are watching, please give us a call, 236-7000. Do you agree with what Mr. Abed has expressed? That clip, if you haven't heard it, it's just a few seconds. I'm going to ask Dave to play it just one more time. But do you agree with what Mr. Abed has expressed? All right, 236-7000. And you can air your views, your opinions, your questions to the panel. Yes, Max. Let's see. Yeah, just let's hear that video one more time, Dave, so that the listeners can get a grip of it again.
But truthfully, the level of need we've seen this year has surpassed anything we've seen in previous years. And it worries me that year after year, this level of need keeps increasing. The country is at 6.5% unemployment. The central bank tells us the economy is growing, and yet we see all these people who are in needs. Something's not adding up. But truthfully,
yes, Marcy, please go ahead. You were making your comment.
Yeah, I want to continue by linking the last callers and talked about Barbados developing into a begging nation.
Yes.
And I think to a large extent that is true. But the question is what?
Sorry, we have another caller.
Go ahead.
We have another caller on the line again. So please hold your
No,
your
go
comment.
ahead. Go ahead. This is as
good
you say,
evening.
the caller
Good
section.
evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Hello. Hello. We have to unmute the mic there, Dave. Yes. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Yes, we're hearing you. Please go ahead.
I just want to agree with that gentleman that just called that was saying that I'm heading into a begging nation. I agree with him. And not only agree with that gentleman, but also what Mr. Abbas would have said concerning our country. You know, people in this country need to pay attention. The problem with Barbadians, they're not paying attention to what is really happening. I mean, look at it. This thing was happening putting Barbados in a position to head backwards started a good while ago. Barbados is heading backwards, not forward. Okay?
Yes, yes.
Heading backward. And one of the things that I must say, and I cannot leave it out any time that I have to call into any program, Bajans, Barbadians need to look to Jesus. They need to look to God.
Yes,
because when I read my Bible, and especially Pastor Ferdinand, you're a pastor, and you would know what the Word of God say about in Hosea chapter 4, and it spoke about when a nation forget God, the kind of things that will take place. It says strangers will come in and take over the land. Strangers in our land right now, yes or no? Let me be real. Let me be truthful. The people of Barbados need to look to the heavens. We could agree that a lot of nonsense, a lot of dishonesty, a lot of corruption is in the nation. We could agree on that across the board. We could agree on that.
Yes.
But the only body that can help us out of it is the Lord Jesus Christ himself. They just got to repent and turn their lives back to God. Stop using their drugs as their God, their things as their God. They reject the true and the living God. The head cornerstone that our people need is the head body that they have rejected. Turn to Jesus. When we go back in the Bible and we read certain things, we can see when the people reject God, what happened? Judgment fall. But when they turned and they repented, God heard, he answered, and he responded to the people. Bajans need to repent and turn back to Jesus Christ. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Bless you all. And continue to work. And I ask that you all seek Jesus Christ, and I guarantee you, without a shadow of a doubt, God will come out on your behalf. You try to work it by yourself, you will fail. All right? But when you work with Jesus, he'll come out. Amen. Bless God. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. And you too, caller. Thank you so much. Well, of course, she echoes the sentiments of the second verse of the national anthem. She does echo that sentiment. Yes, Maxine, until we get another call.
Yeah, no problem.
Hopefully you'll get a chance to come to
the whole question of need, and as I was saying, my concern is that when we look at what's happening in Barbados, we have a number of unfortunate scenarios playing out. A failure to really pursue the creation of opportunities. Now, government can go so far, and let me say that there also has to be an interest in creating opportunities, innovating, call it whatever you want, creating job opportunities, investing, taking risk, and so on the part of the private sector. But of course, a private sector that imports and puts on a markup and is making a profit and doing okay, it's not going to get into risky activity. So government has to find a way to incentivize those groups of people or individuals who want to explore new and non-traditional ways. But I also want to talk about this question of people begging, because as the caller, the last two callers were speaking, I wrote down, especially when the lady was speaking, I wrote down begging, one, out of laziness, or the willingness to participate in what I consider the mendicant mentality that has been fostered by politicians, particularly, I certainly would say, based on how I see things playing out, fostered but this government has encouraged that in a way probably more significant than any other administration. Then, of course, this begging out of sheer necessity. People are knocking. I get calls. There's a young lady who I've been trying to find a job for. I don't know her personally. Somebody asked her to call me. And when she explained to me the kinds of jobs that she's done over the years in trying to survive and trying to find a job now, and she's not the only one. So I think that what's happening is that we're seeing a lot of wastage. We're seeing a lot of buzzwords knocking around, talking pretty fancy, consultants being paid money. I focus on them more than the politicians, although we can rightfully look at those people are receiving significant resources and there's nothing to show for it. When I
Yes.
look and somebody mentioned Barbados going back, and it's interesting to me. I hear Mr. Abed, and you know, I guess he's also feeling it not only in requests for support, but he probably is seeing it in terms of the level of
Sales.
business that
Yeah.
is happening. But I really am concerned when I look at the numbers of young people, and I've been trying to get some statistics because I don't like to speak without facts. But I am concerned that year in and year out, we're seeing youngsters exiting our secondary school system at fifth form level. They are not going on to further education, tertiary education in the options. They're not finding jobs. And my question is, what is happening to them? You
Yes.
know, so and a lot of these will be youngsters where their parents or the households that there's a call I think
Yes. We
a
have
call. So
another caller.
yeah, so
Yeah, we have
maybe you should
another
go to
caller. Good
that call.
evening. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show.
Yeah, good evening, panel.
Hi, good
Good evening. Could
evening.
you speak a little louder? Just a little more volume?
Everyone.
Yeah, we're
Yes,
hearing you. Go ahead.
yes, I'm calling to say, right? Yes, I am calling to say that that Bajans got to really wake up because they're letting these people tell them too much lies from the beginning to the end, and it got to stop. Something every beginning got an ending. This year got to stop. But we in this type of place. This is a godly place. What them doing? Tell me what them doing. Let me care.
Caller, do you have a speaker on in the background?
No, I can load on my thing. Listen to me, right? Carefully, right? No, that's the TV.
Okay, because it is overrunning, it's overruling us
I'm
hearing
speaking now,
you.
right?
Okay, that's much better. Thank you. Go right ahead.
People do not wake up. I can tell
Mhm.
you something, right? You see, if these people get back in, dog and eat supper. I seen it. I know people that went for jobs and she give people, people from outside in front of the other people, debating people. Nobody ain't getting to work. Don't mind nobody. Everything going wrong because these people allowing it. People allowing this year to go on. Too much people and people behind this woman. People behind this woman 100%, and they don't care and benefit and everything affect everyone of it. They ain't realize what's going on. You all have a good night. I'm doing a good job. Everyone have a good night. Enjoy your
Thank
all
you
night.
so very much, caller. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Theory, your thoughts?
Pastor Ferdinand, I agree with all the comments made by our guests. 100%. But the thing about it is that the same thing I was speaking to Maxine about. The agents either going to get to a point they're fed up, or they can sit and look in themselves and see what they can do to make the change, or they're going to keep on talking. Yes, right now we may be looking like a nation of beggars, or certain perception may be may say that. But if a person don't get up and say, look, I'm tired of this here though, it's time to get it's my bitch for not, I'm tired of this. What can I do to make this change? And there will be no change. Right? And I really want to add something pertaining to the ministry. I just want to add it quickly. I do not know what is going on at the Ministry of Education. And I respect the people at the Ministry of Education, especially the heads. They know me and they know them. Right? I have the utmost respect for those persons. But I am very extremely disappointed in the decisions made in the last couple of months. Extremely disappointed, especially with this phone policy. It is nonsense. There are better
Yes.
options like Yonder and Dorman. I guess at some point we get a chance to talk about that, but we have a call on the line. So
Yes, we do. Thank you so much, Theory. Good evening, caller, and welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Program Host.
Good evening, sir.
Let
Welcome.
me say that I agree with you answer or comment on what Mr. Abed had to share. And yes, we are seeing a high level of persons who are seeking assistance from John Public and the government. I do agree with your callers who indicated earlier that Barbados has descended into a mendicant state almost. And if you check back, you will notice that it was starting, and I agree with Ms. McCLEAN when she indicated that it was proliferated even more under this administration, or rather I should correct that and say under the party that now holds the reins of government in this country. If you check back as far back, I think it was back in 1992 or 93 when the Barbados Labour Party would have taken over the reins of government. And I believe it was at the beginning of when that was then introduced, when the money started to roll in and they did not know what to do with most of that money. They had opened up the rural and the urban development, and all of a sudden, everybody wanted government to give them a free house and to repair their houses for free. And that continued up to this day, where now they use that for their own benefit and suppressing the people and causing them to operate in this mendicant state that they have to wait on handouts from government to get ahead in life. And this is what we need to have change in our country, because we need to see our country more productive. We cannot just be handing out these type of jobs that we are talking about and talking about unemployment is at 6%. Are you having people along the street sweeping up garbage? You have about 4 and 5 persons just picking up garbage along the street or sweeping along the streets and putting them in bags and leaving them at the side of the road. I'm not saying that they're not persons or that is not important too. But I'm saying we need to find a higher level of employment for our people. I do agree that it would appear that some of our young people are not inclined to hard work. And that is, they might not be interested. I saw one of your viewers wrote not long ago on your program that he have a friend who is in construction and they're looking for laborers, and Barbadian young people don't want to do hard work. That is unfortunate. But what else is the government looking at to engage our young men who we seem to be losing along the way? We have to do better in our country. I agree with Mr. Abed that this high level of aid, it seems to be far outweighing all other years. Because wherever you turn, there are persons who are in need. But yet, the governor of the central bank is saying the economy is performing and growing so well. But where is that growth? Why is it not transcending down to those at the bottom? If it's up somewhere at the top, it is not even transcending down to the middle, because there are a number of persons who we call working in the middle class, who are working paycheck to paycheck, and they have to juggle their bills. So you can imagine what is happening at the bottom end. And And no wonder we have so many charitable organizations popping up around the place, because the need of those at the bottom. How do you think a mother who have 3 or 4 children and is a single parent may be having to pay rent? And I'm hearing now that you have to pay now as high as $200 or $225 per week for sometimes a one room. You can imagine a mother was working for $300 or $350 and having to send school children. How are they gonna fare?
Yes, Jesus.
Some of them have not. Some of them have said they have not even seen the $100 that was promised by the government. They have not received it. Just talked about. Something needs to give. I think there's something swelling, and we don't want an explosion in this country. We are given airy-fairy information to say all is well, but there are tremors. There are tremors in this society that are indicating to us something is about to break. I trust that we will read the signs. We cannot have so much poverty in this country. We cannot. And then walk around and say that we are doing oh so well. Not when there are so many under
so many suffering.
Even the minister have highlighted that there's an increase in the number of persons visiting the welfare department. So they too are overwhelmed. So what are you saying to us then when you come back and saying that we are doing so well? Almost every road in this country needs attention. But yet, we are paying, we have put lots of funds into the economy via the road taxes. We have borrowed significant sums to carry out road repairs. Even in my area where I live, I have to be driving through ruggedy roads. And it is not one of those areas that you would say is a low income. It's persons who were civil servants and all whatnot live. And yet we have roads with holes and all whatnot in them. But yet we are spending so much on road repairs. Go down Calmarock and see how the road you have to be trying to navigate on the road. And God help us tomorrow, where we have to go down now the lower Calmarock end, because nobody is talking about what is going to happen with the traffic flow down there when you move the Garrison School over to that Calmarock mainstream. How are people going to get to work? So I'm warning persons that they better leave home at 6 o'clock if you got to get to work for 8, because that traffic going down there is going to be crazy. It just be crazy already. And the Garrison School wasn't over in Calmarock at that time. And the Garrison School is supposed to transfer over there. So I hope that the law enforcement agency will come out and render some assistance in directing the traffic flow and assist persons in traversing that area. But I believe tomorrow is going to be madness on that Calmarock stretch, going from maybe way back up from Wildy going all the way down. We need to look at our economy and see if it is truly performing in the interest of the masses, well, rather, let me say, in the interest of all Barbadians. Because in my untrained and economics opinion, I don't see it happening. I cannot see the evidence that will lead me to come to that conclusion that it is working in the interest of all Barbadians.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, caller. I appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. Well, this is why it's so important and so critical for all of us to march. This is what marches are all about. It is to send a message to government that things have to change. And the people are not satisfied with it. This is not just a matter of a political party. This is a matter of the people in the country, the Barbadian society, the citizenry, who are having to choose between sending one child to school or two children to school, or for that matter, even supplying school material and so on for them. These are the realities that people are having to face. And the caller, panel talked about the shift to that school, but he hasn't even mentioned when the Afro Exim Bank is constructed and they close off Gemmett's Lane and they close off some of the roads in the area, what is going to happen in terms of traffic? I mean, that is another subject for another time. Well, listen, we have exhausted our time here by 11 minutes. I'm just holding to make sure there are no more callers in terms of the show tonight. I know, Rose, we haven't heard much from you this evening. Hopefully, we'll hear more from you, God willing, tomorrow, that you're able to make it on, and that we can continue this conversation with regards to the whole aspect of education, and these type of things that need to be vented, they need to be discussed. And I think that at the end of the day, Maxine, you made a statement a few minutes ago, and the Prime Minister made a similar statement with regards to Carifesta when she talked about the cost and the benefits. And you made a similar statement with regards to ministers or the government delivering in terms of what you're paying them. Can't remember exactly how you put it, but you made that connection, that reference. You're being paid to do something, but are they delivering in terms of what they're being paid to do? So what I'm going to do as we come to the end of this session tonight, my goodness, wow. You go for this time and you realize that you run out of time. You're almost tempted to go for 4 or 5 hours. But anyhow, Marcy would murder me if I tried that. But I'm going to give you all opportunity to make some brief closing comments. And let me begin with you, Rose, because you were the last person to have joined us this evening. But we're going to do it briefly, guys, all right? Because we're done into 10:13. So, Rose, if you could lead us off, your brief comments. I know you've been listening to the show. Just your brief comments with regards to all that we have discussed this evening. Let me. You're muted. Okay, great. You're unmuted. Go ahead. You might
Thank
have
you
to.
so
There
much.
you go. Yes.
Yes, thank you. And two comments is that I'm wishing all those who have to return to our schools tomorrow. I'm praying for their safety and a peaceful and productive school year. And my husband and I had a very interesting evening where we visited all of the schools in St. George and prayed at the gates. That's why I got back in after 7, anticipating that I would be on for 8. And that's why, viewers, that I was not as timely on the show this evening. But we went to all the schools in St. George and we spent time praying at the gates. And I
Wonderful.
do
Wonderful.
ask that
God.
you will do the same, remembering our students, our teachers, and all those who are responsible and facilitate learning and instruction. And I don't want to be presumptuous, but Maxine, this is to Maxine and to Terry, they were talking about investment and the state of affairs. Maxine, it would be good if sometime for me to learn and the viewers of investors, investing investing to boost the economy. If a session could be done by you or the producers of the Marcy show, if they can identify someone or person who could educate us on the need for investment and attracting investors, and what type of investment are we looking for? Because I'm concerned too that we're getting investors in one, two with the recent cotton, that private investor, and we're not hearing much about how that would be executed and how it
Yeah.
would redound to the additional boost in the economy. So that's homework I'm throwing out there for you, Maxine, and for the producers of the Marcy show.
I was
Thank
writing it down.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rose. Thank you so very much. Theory?
I just want to say it's always a privilege and a pleasure to speak to the people of Barbados on this show. What I would say to my people is that look into yourself and see what you can do. We at Carry Ventures Global, one of my companies, our motto is the urgency of no. Right? You know the Barbadian and motto is probably that industry, but I think Barbadians are too proud, um, given what's going on in our country, and we're not being as much so, or even if using the correct grammatical context, industrious. So I believe we need to be more so looking at the urgency of no, and looking at how we can execute, doing, not talking. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so very much, Theory. It's a pleasure having you on tonight as well. Victor? You're muted. You're muted.
I think you would have muted me.
There
I
you
didn't
go.
put myself right. I think my concern is relative to a comment by Picard that talked about this whole concept of Barbadian workers being lazy. I don't think he said Barbadian workers, but the youngsters that are being trained are very lazy. That needs to be addressed by educational system. Educational system certainly should be impacting our work first to the extent that we don't find these kind of attitudes. So I would beg that the Ministry of Education needs to revisit that with the consciousness that having trained our students that they are well prepared to execute and execute where there is not only the cognitive dimension but also a dimension of hands-on, where we have our artisans that can go out there and produce. I also want to comment relative to what's happening in St. Joseph, and I'm concerned that um, what I saw reflected there in Franklin Dublin Road. I'm hoping though that the actual civil engineers that they will revisit their policies in terms of construction in the Scotland district, because if what we saw as a result of efforts and significant monies being spent, the product that we got from it, I'm hoping that they would revisit their policies and that we would see um, better results. If better can be a word used now because we are to our wits' end in St. Joseph.
Well, thank you so very much, Victor. We really appreciate you shedding the light on so many things that are happening in that beautiful parish with such a scenic environment, so beautiful, and the threat that it can also have to our tourism sector. Appreciate you sharing all of that with us tonight. And of course, Maxine, your closing comments. I
Oh,
know that you've touched on a number of things tonight. My goodness, we could spend a whole show on just one or two comments.
I wrote down something very quickly and including something in response to what Rose says. And I wrote here, a society becomes apathetic when, among other things, the members of that society feel betrayed. To whom much is given, much is expected. And I'm talking now about those in the political at the political directorate level. For those making grandiose promises, your failure to deliver is magnified multiple times, reflecting the grandiose promises that you made, contributing to the frustration and the total disappointment that is manifested in apathy. Now, Rose, very quickly, investing, you mentioned that, and that is something for which I have great interest, whether it's at the level of individual investment as part of a personal financial management strategy or at the level of the society. And I want quickly to say that as something that I will come back to, as you have suggested that I do. I was going to say as you've commanded me to, but that's not what you did. You've asked that we do that. We talk about liquidity in the banking sector and the financial services sector and so on. And my question has been, what have we done to leverage those surplus or liquid funds? And I raise that within particular, or with particular reference to the sugar industry, the sugarcane industry. As a member of the energy cooperative, we are away. I certainly, as a member of that co-op, I have been awaiting information on this. I can tell you that our annual general meeting is coming up soon, and hopefully our leaders will have some explanations. But I have to say, and I've said it before, that was an opportunity as presented, that would have empowered the average Barbadian. But I will come back to demonstrate why, as part of a discussion about investment, I am prepared to do it at the earliest opportunity. And so I think that when we talk about these issues, we don't talk about them in isolation. They are so intertwined,
Yes,
Pastor
yes,
Ferdinand, that it makes,
yes.
it is important that we see the interconnections, and it makes for you know very interesting shows, but challenging shows in terms of
Yes, yes,
program trying to
yes,
capture all and do so within certain time frames. But it's
yes.
been a pleasure with being here with the team again this evening. Thanks very much.
And I want to thank all of you for being here. And I agree with you, Marcy, Nicole, Marcy, or Maxine. I agree with you. Everything is so intertwined. It's you almost can't deal with one subject without incorporating another and another and another, because they all spill over into each other. And I made some notes here that there's so many areas that government is failing in. And sometimes people would probably question why you're always so negative and negative, but we have to really treat to the issues and the truth. And hopefully at some point in time we can begin to offer suggestions and solutions. Not that the authorities will be listening, because we've been criticized of being noise. When we open up our voices, we have our marches, and we have a march again upcoming, not this Saturday, the following Saturday. I think that would be September the 20th, if my mind serves me correctly. I think it's September the 30th, 20th. And this is why we need you to come out. You need to come out. It's your country. It's what is happening to your land. And we have sung it in our national anthem, that this is our country. We loyal sons and daughters all do hereby make it known. These fields and hills beyond recall are now our very own. And so if you really want to address the issues that we're dealing with in this country, you need to come out and let your voice be heard, not just here on the show, but let it be heard in the public domain. Join us in those marches. We are not just marching for the sake of keeping noise. We are marching so government understands that people are not satisfied. There needs to be change. There are aspects that people are very uncomfortable with, especially when it comes to legislative matters. So again, I'm thinking to myself, there's need for some significant paradigm shifts in the country. People need to change how they're thinking about the whole aspect of politics and economics, and even investment, and even how we market. I want to close this with this comment from me. I'm not an expert in marketing. I never went to university. None of those things I did. I guess God has blessed me and gifted me with some skills and talents and abilities. But many years ago, I did a survey of BMW vehicles in the country to discover they had over 260 of them on the island, with 4Us landing a month. And I thought to myself, because this is one of the aspects of marketing, you find a need and you meet the need. And I thought to myself that we needed to meet that need. To make a long story short, we were able to go to Munich. We came back and we were able, after some time, to establish a BMW dealership in Barbados because there was a need identified. Clearly, there are needs identified. And the reason I raise that is because I wonder if government is engaging the young people of our nation on the street and asking them, what is it you want to do? Rather than coming up with solutions for them that bear no resemblance whatsoever to the need that they have or the areas that they want to engage. My advice to them is to have a discussion, a discourse with the young people of this country and find out what it is that they need to have, what it is they want to do with their lives. Where do they want to go? And let us see what we can do to facilitate that and how we can achieve that aspect. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. Thank you, loyal opposition. We could not have made it without you. We could not have had this show without you. I want to thank Marcia for entrusting me again tonight. It's not my normal night to be the host, but I hope I've been able to do her justice in terms of the Sunday night. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow night, and hopefully, Rose, you'll be able to join us um, and engage the aspect of education further. And hopefully, we'll be able to take a look to at what's happened in Guyana and maybe even in Jamaica, and see how it relates to the country here in Barbados. So, thank you so very
Thank
much,
you.
all of you, Maxine, Victor, Rose. I know you were only on for a short while. Theory, thank you so much for all of you contributing to this show tonight. It certainly has been an education for me, and I'm sure all of our viewers have been encouraged and educated tonight. So, until tomorrow night, we want to wish you a great, great night and say to you, whatever you do, don't give up, and take the advice of that lady who spoke about God. Our second verse of the national anthem says, the Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years. With him still on the people's side, we have no doubts or fears. Good night, and God bless you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Good night.
And,
Take care, everybody.
God bless.
Be
Thank you,
good.
guys.
Be careful.